going live once again with Traina, Entertainah, and the dog as we talk about the Giants' 2022 season, skim over the playoffs, and look ahead to the future. So that's coming up next here on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 6 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 25 times the amount of your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Giants Live. I am Patricia Traina, your host. You've got Traina, Entertainah, and the dog.
Oh, that's a good intro. That's appropriate for what happened last week. It was kind of subdued. It wasn't overly energetic.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We're entering the off season. I give that like a 9 out of 10 because of the circumstance.
Correct.
Yes, and you know, my heart bleeds for dog because I know he wanted so badly, as we all did. We all wanted the Giants to beat the Eagles.
I just wanted to give them a game. I just wanted them to be competitive, and they just went out with a thud.
Yeah, I mean, geez, Louise. I mean, we won't spend a whole lot of time talking about that, but on today's show, we'll talk about the 2022 season a little bit, and then we'll spin it ahead to 2023. I know a lot of you have been asking me, when are you going to be ready to talk free agency in the draft? Well, free agency, I've been doing a lot of work on this week, so I can talk free agency. The draft, we're just getting started. We had a couple of articles up on Giants Country, so I'm still getting up to speed on that, but it's off season. It sucks, I know, but we're going to talk about some stuff. And guys,
at least it took till the end of January this year for it to be the offseason as opposed to before Halloween, which is, I always joked around and said, man, the Yankee season lasts longer than the Giants season. Like the Yankees still mean something at the end of October and the Giants don't. So I had a blast this year. It's the best year I've had covering the Giants.
BadDog only had one rant all year. That's how you know it was a good year.
Yeah, that was it.
BadDog usually rants in his sleep.
Minnesota game. Yeah.
So the fact that BadDog only had one rant video all year tells you how good of a. And listen, it was.
What was the rant video on? I'm curious.
It was the Minnesota game, the first one, and the reason being, it's not because I felt like we played poorly. I was more mad that it didn't go into overtime because we were winning. We were winning that game. The fact that Joseph hit a 61-yard field goal, it just frustrated me. It frustrated me that they even had the opportunity to kick the field goal, and you just know that a guy that has a chance to beat the Giants with a 60-plus yard field goal, he's going to do it. You know, Elliott did it to us again. Philly. Joseph did it to us, and of course, Graham Gano to us. So 3 times we've lost the end of regulation on a 60-plus yard field goal. I was more upset that we didn't get a chance to go in overtime because
but you know what? At the end of the day, you know, it sucked at the time, but we got him. You know, the Giants got him back. And look, I firmly believe, and you guys, you know, we can talk about it obviously on the show. I believe that the tide's turning for the Giants. You know, considering the roster that they had this year, and we could all agree that they had deficiencies on the roster. I think even Shane and Dable realized it without coming out and saying it. Considering the deficiencies, for them to accomplish what they did, pretty impressive. And it gives me hope for the future that now with a healthier salary cap situation, with up to 11 draft picks, right now they have 9, but they're going to get 2 comp picks. Shane's going to fix this roster. I have the utmost confidence in him. And, you know, he spoke on Monday. We can talk a little bit about what he said on Monday with regards to free agency and the tags. And we'll get into Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and all that good stuff. But I feel pretty good about the direction this franchise is headed in.
How could you not? We've got a GM that I think demonstrated this year that he's got at least a head on his shoulders, and he has a plan from day one that he's not going to alter with all the pressures that the fan base gave him at the trade deadline. He said, no, I'm not giving away premium draft capital to bring in a guy like Chase Claypool. No, we brought in a GM that showed you he could find guys off the scrap heap like Isaiah Hodgins that could be contributors. And our head coach proved that he could take players like that and he could get something out of them. And he proved that he could take players that were on this team from a prior regime and make them look like completely different players. Dexter Lawrence this year was always good. This year he was all pro. Daniel Jones this year was a top, as Carl Banks called it on my channel, 8 quarterback this year. So like he got like career year. Julian Love had his best year of his career. Saquon Barkley had a resurgence. He had a bounce. So like so many players on this team you saw develop into better players than they had ever been. And I think a lot of that goes to the coaching. So how could you not be really excited about the future of this team while still realizing that we have a lot to work on, especially from within the division? Because that's what you got to be concerned with, right? Yes. And the New York Giants finished the year 1-5-1 from within the division, if you include the playoffs. And the one thing that stands out to me, not just in the playoff game, in every game we played outside of the last regular season game, but the first Eagles game, the postseason Eagles game, and both Dallas Cowboys games, they didn't just kill us. They literally had like a mass murder in the trenches against us. Like, we do not stack up with their offensive line, and we on both sides. Our defensive line got dominated every time we played those teams, and our offensive line got dominated every time we played those teams. So if you're Joe Schoen, you're looking at that. I think that has to be the focal point. We need to continue to bulk up that line, and we need linebackers.
Yeah, quick shout out to Pop Guzzo, says I look like a bear. I am shaving after the stream, Papa Guzzo. I am shaving. I didn't have a chance to do it today before the stream. But yes, don't worry. Have no fear. I will be shaving. Chris's dad always gives you a hard time he's Italian. He gets it. He understands.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree.
Papa Guzzo. We love him.
No, of course. He's the man. Papa Guzzo is the man. He's the man.
He's the man. Yep, absolutely.
I agree. I think the next step the Giants have to take, obviously they took a massive step forward. They accelerated the process. I think they exceeded a lot of people's expectations, getting to the playoffs and then winning a playoff game and giving the fan base hope of what could be in the future. But I think we have to start. I think our next step is beating Philadelphia and Dallas. Yeah. These are two teams that we haven't matched up well against. These are two teams that, like Chris said, they run over us. The Eagles' offensive line is pushing our defenders back 15 yards. The first game they ran for like 300 yards against us. In a playoff game, they ran for like 265. I don't even know how many passes they do in the second half. It's just like, here you go, Boston Scott. Here you go, Miles Sanders. Here you go, Kenneth Gainwell, whoever. Jalen Hurts didn't have to run. It's just whoever was back there. Here you go. I mean, what was it, 3rd and 11, and Gainwell got like 30 yards on one play.
And did you see how Justin Ellis got pushed back?
Yeah.
By a guy who we outweighed by about 50 pounds or so?
Yeah. So you see what the Eagles did, and I kind of compare us to Philadelphia, although I think they were set up better than we are right now. But you look at what Philadelphia was last year, and they were 5-7-1, I believe. I could be wrong. I've said this a lot, and I never actually checked, but I'm pretty sure they were 5-7-1, looked like they were done. Won their last 4 games, finished 9-7-1, got to the postseason, got blown out by Tampa. They got blown out. They got obliterated. They were down 31-0. They lost 31-15. There was questions about, hey, is Jalen Hurts the guy? Let's get some draft picks. A lot of Eagles fans didn't think Jalen Hurts was the guy. Then you go out and you get an A.J. Brown, and you look at what Howie Roseman did with that team, and you look at how good they are now. So when a lot of people say, oh, the Giants would have been better off not making the playoffs, they would have been better off losing and getting a better draft pick, I'm like, you can't put a value on the experience that the players get, that the coaching staff gets. That playoff experience means a lot. And it also builds confidence going forward that, hey, we like this. Let's do better next time. It brings more free agent interest to the team. I think Carl Banks mentioned that, Chris, or you mentioned it when you were talking to him, that now that you have a good culture there and a good head coach, and people see that, they're going to be more interested in coming to the Giants. And we have more cap flexibility. And you also mentioned the Carl Banks stream, Chris, and it's a good point that we keep our own guys and then we get comp picks. Instead of going outside and losing picks, you get comp picks for signing your own guys, and that's the whole point of drafting really well. You don't build through free agency, you build through the draft. And I believe this front office is going to be good with the cap. I think they're going to be good with the scouting and the drafting. And there's no reason not to be excited as a Giants fan for the future.
I had Gates on the show a couple days ago, that interview.
I watched that one today when I was at work.
Yeah, I saw you gave me the thumbs up on that. Yeah. And Gates Gates was very optimistic. And, I was talking with him after we finished recording, and he basically is like, this team's going to, he said with the right moves and if we can stay healthy, he was very, very optimistic about this team and the direction it was going in. So, I mean, you could just feel it. I mean, just a change in the culture, the locker room this year, not that the locker rooms have ever been really difficult for me to work, but this year, just Patty, you could tell it was different.
Anytime I saw even after they lost to the Eagles, anytime I saw an in-locker room interview this year, all I heard was ping pong balls in the background. Yeah. And I know you've mentioned that all year that they're always playing ping pong, and I heard it like the last 5 times they interviewed.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like you could tell like these guys just like playing for one another. It was a much better locker room this year. And the further evidence that you need, Leonard Williams came out and said that he's willing to take a pay cut. And who knows if he's going to be willing to when he talks to his agent. But he said he's willing to take a pay cut to stay with this team. Saquon Barkley came out and may have hurt his value by saying,
right, I said the same thing.
I know, like, I'm not, my injuries in the past are going to hurt me. I'm not looking to break the record for the highest paid running back. Why are they saying these things? Because they want to remain New York Giants. Like, there's something to that. That means that Dable's starting to build something.
Yeah, Leonard Williams said he would take a pay cut. I don't know. So, I mean, Darius Slayton took a pay cut to stay here. So yeah, I said right at the beginning of the year, there was all the talk about Dave Gettleman when he came in here was the culture. And all I kept saying in the offseason, winning builds culture. When you win, it just changes things. And I always love the way this team played. When I watched that hype video that's on Chris's channel, it's like 90 seconds. And I must have watched it 20 times. And it's more so and he played that on before we started last week. And I just listened to how excited Chris and I get on some of those plays. And I'm like, we haven't had that excitement here in years. And I just love it. And I start thinking back, man, we had some really good moments that did, like the Packers game, the Ravens that's on there, the Kayvon Thibodeau set. Chris and I lost our minds because we're like, that was a playoff game. And we were, so we had a lot of fun this year. And I expect that to continue into next year. But these players, they play hard for Brian Dable. They play for one another. There's no selfish guys on here really outside of, Kenny Golladay saying, give me the ball at the beginning of the year, but you saw them at the end of the year out there throwing blocks and doing what they were asked to do. So, I just think finally, and I know Carl Banks mentioned this on Chris's stream, but we do have the right people in place. The front office, the coaching staff, it's a really good personnel group. And that's why as Giants fans, we should be excited because I do feel like for the first time, we have those good, young 21st century analytical minds that are going to get the most out of their players. Now you're going to have an offseason where Shane, Dable, Brandon Brown, they are scouting for the Giants, which they weren't doing last year. They have their own scouts in place. They went out and they scouted players that they know are going to fit their system, and they're going to bring in those players. And know that Dable's going to be able to coach them up. So it's going to be a good season next year.
And you know what I love? Two things I'll comment on. First off, the locker room. This was, now granted, we weren't in the locker room during the pandemic. So this was the first year we were back in the locker room. It's been a long time since I can recall a locker room being this loose, this fun to cover. Guys were just, there were so many more cooperative guys. When they lose, they tend to, I don't want to talk to the media. So they go and they hide or, whatever. There were more guys available every week, which was awesome. Yeah. There was friendly banter going on back and forth between the media and the players, which was kind of cool. Because I always joke with the guys. I always say, yeah, we're like your ugly step cousins that you wanted this, that you don't want to remember. And then, about Shane, I got to tip my hat to the guy. When he spoke on Monday, I don't know what you guys thought, but he's not going to obviously come right out and say certain things, but I thought he was as honest as he could be given the circumstances. And there were times when I thought, wow, you're a little too honest there.
I'm gonna give you a couple of thoughts on the too honest part. I'm going to give you a couple of thoughts I have on that. But that's what Joe Schoen has done since he's been here. Not just that press conference. Like last year, all these Giants fans on my channel are like, oh, he's full of it. He's full of it. He's going to draft Malik Willis. He's going to take it. No, he came out right out and he told you what he was going to do, and it's what he did. And I think he's doing the same thing again. But I think, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is just a conspiracy on my end or whatever, and I'm speculating too much. I don't think that was an accidental slip-up by Joe Schoen when he said Daniel Jones will be back here. I'm going to tell you why. I think that's him saying subliminally to Daniel Jones' agent, if we have to, we're going to franchise tag your quarterback. He will be back here with the New York Giants. I think that's what he was trying to portray when he said that, when he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I don't know if you caught it. Dable kind of looked over at him like, what?
He said it twice.
Yeah.
Twice. He said he's going to be back
But
here.
you know what? This is what I like about Shane. Obviously he's not going to tell you everything, but I have found him to be as honest and forthright within reason as anything. I mean, even off the record, he'll say things and you're like, okay, and you just file it away for later if you're going to, do something with it. I really like this guy. There's no BS. He knows what he needs to do. And it's almost like, okay, the whole world knows what our deficiencies are. So what's the harm in me admitting it, And he's like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the guys that I need to, further advance this roster.
No doubt. I definitely think they want to keep their guys, and that's what he said.
And that's the way you build teams.
Exactly. That is how you build teams. Like Chris said earlier, that's what the
Steelers
have done. That's what the Patriots have done. That's how you become a consistent contender every year, by drafting well and keeping your core players and getting more picks, getting more compensatory picks, as opposed to going out there and overspending in free agency and bringing in guys that aren't used to your system and then trying to get rapport with the quarterback or rapport with the other teammates or whatever. When you have a core of guys that play together, they can play off of one another, and that goes a long way. Again, these are intangibles that don't show up in Madden ratings or in box scores. And we've been trying to piece it together. Dave Gettleman went out there and he got the best wide receiver that he could. He went out there and got the best left tackle that was available, and Nate Solder, and they both flopped big time. It was a lot of money, and there was no production. So it just goes to show you're better off drafting well and keeping your own guys. And that is the way you build consistency.
Absolutely.
So, and then you get a piece here, you get a piece there, but you don't go out there and try to, put it, tape a hole in a boat.
You don't want to win the offseason.
Right.
Exactly.
You want to win the regular season.
And not for nothing.
Yeah.
But tell me of a better head coach GM combo right now that's working together. Because these two guys, but they both came from Buffalo, so they were familiar with each other. There was no honeymoon period or anything like that. They kind of knew how each other thought. Is there a better GM head coach combination right now?
If there is, there's not many. I'll say that. And the other thing
you can make a case for maybe Roseman and Sirianni.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, Lynch and Shanahan. That's a pretty good one.
Exactly. Shanahan's a really good one too. Yeah.
Yeah. But not a whole lot of them in the league.
No, we definitely got a really good nucleus. That's for damn sure. But the other thing I want to go back to, Shane went out of his way in that press conference to talk about how they want to retain homegrown players.
Yep.
He was asked about free agency specifically, and he said, I always will prioritize guys that I know, guys that have been in this
building. My ears, by the way.
Yeah. So like when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, he's keeping Daniel Jones. He's going to try to keep Saquon Barkley. He's going to try to keep, he wants to keep guys that are familiar with the program, familiar playing in New York, familiar with Brian Dable. And that's the way that you build a good football team. When you start bringing in guys from, you don't know what you're getting. Like when you get Nate Solder or Kenny Golladay, you don't know how they're going to react to a new situation in the New York market, in a new offensive scheme. You don't think it helped Nate Solder that he was playing with Tom Brady's first 6 years of his career? So that's what happens when you're a poorly run organization. You take the leftovers from the good football teams. The Patriots said, we don't need Nate Solder. We'll draft another tackle.
Right.
You could spend $18 million a year on him. That's what we did. And it failed, and we failed miserably. So, and now the Lions are starting to be a well-run organization. What did they do? They said, you take Kenny Golladay. We don't need him. So that's not how you build a football team. You build through the draft. And then when you get to that point where you're ready to compete for a Super Bowl, you do what the 49ers did. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey's that piece that could get us over the top. Let's go out and do what we got to do together.
Like the Eagles do with A.J. Brown.
Yep,
but you build the team first. You build the core first.
Exactly.
And that's why Shane said, right now, he kind of downplayed the need for a number one receiver. I mean, I think they're still going to address that, but they've got so many holes they have to address. And, I tell people, just as the team didn't deteriorate overnight, it's going to take some time to build it up. They tried to under Reese, they tried to under Gettleman. It didn't work. This guy has a plan. I really believe that. And it's going to take time. This past year, he was hamstrung by the cap. We can all agree on that. But, going forward, and this is what I also like about this marriage between him and Dable. You ever notice when they do their press conferences, they do them together? It's not Shane and then Dable later. It's one message, one voice, so that Shane knows what Dable's saying and vice versa. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Surprised it wasn't like that in the past.
I think the fact that both of them came from Buffalo, I definitely think that helped. And I know we mentioned it on this show, and Chris and I mentioned it, and he mentioned it again today. You can see Brian Dable's effect on the quarterback because Josh Allen, who's still fantastic, took a step back this year. And, I think Chris mentioned that he threw 2 red zone interceptions his entire career, and he threw like 5 or 6 this season.
Yeah.
And he didn't look the same. He didn't look like the dominant Josh Allen. He was still great. He still has an elite skill set, maybe the best skill set overall in the NFL. But his decision-making was a little bit more poor. He seemed inaccurate, and at times he seemed uncomfortable. I don't know if that had to do with injury or whatever. I know he was battled, he was nicked up and whatever, but you could just tell that he went back a little bit, and Daniel Jones took a major step forward, and there's no way you can look at both of those things and say that Brian Dable didn't have an effect on both of them. So I love it, and I do think that Daniel Jones coming back here, I think he's going to be better. You're going to get more talent around him. He's going to be under the second-year system. And again, I go back to the Eagles, who I guess they were 9-8. They weren't 9-7-1. They were 5-7 at one point. They finished 9-8. But I go back to that fan base, and I'm not an Eagle fan, obviously, but I was just saying the same thing. Hurts ain't the guy. Hurts isn't the guy. Hurts can't do it. A lot of Eagle fans were saying the same thing. They were doubting him. And then look at this step he took forward with a number 1 receiver. Not that Devontae Smith isn't great, but a good offensive line, and a pure number 1 in A.J. Brown, and a second year under the Nick Sirianni system. And you look at what the Giants can do if they can get that number 1 receiver. I hear a lot of mocks about Jordan Addison, who I absolutely love. You get a Jordan Addison, maybe you do. Maybe you go out and trade for a DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what they're going to do, but you add that and you get some interior offensive line help. And the next thing you know, Daniel Jones takes another step forward. And then maybe that talk of, he only throws for 170 yards a game. Like Carl Banks said, he takes care of the ball and he wins. So who cares? I loved it when he said that. Yeah. Who cares how many yards he throws?
I don't care about his yards. I care about his production in the big spots and racking up W's.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes, stats are nice, but, Tony Romo used to have great stats. And
he did.
What did he win? I mean,
nothing. Same thing Dak Prescott wins.
In terms of importance, Daniel Jones has won as many of them. He's equal Tony Romo's career playoff wins.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. That's all you need to know. So, all right. So, guys, Shane, obviously wants to keep his own guys. Let's start with Daniel Jones because that's a hot topic. I think we can all agree that if they don't get a deal done, they will tag him by the March 7th deadline. Yeah. What kind of deal do you anticipate for Daniel Jones? I'm thinking 3 years, got to be at least $35 million. I can't see it being less than whatever the franchise tag amount is, which I think is $32 million for 32 million for the non-exclusive.
For the exclusive, it's 44, but they're not
right.
Doing that.
Which he's not getting exclusive, but definitely 32 million, I think, for the non-exclusive.
Yeah, so, but that's still basically exclusive because the team has to surrender 2 first-round picks at that point if they want to sign him, and nobody's going to do that. So, that's exactly what they're going to do. That's exactly what they're going to do. It's why, and you mentioned this like a month ago. It's why you said it, and now I think it as well that they approached Saquon Barkley and Julian Love at the bye because they said to themselves, if we could get these guys done when it comes to Daniel Jones, we could deal from a position of power. Because if they are not able to sign Saquon before the tag deadline, and then they have to tag Saquon, they no longer have that power over Daniel Jones where they could say, hey, DJ, if you're not going to sign this deal, we're only going to go up to this number, we could tag you. And we'll gladly tag you for $32 million a year. So I think that's why they wanted to get the Saquon deal done with then, and they don't want this to prolong. But, yeah, I think the goal for the Giants is to get a multi-year deal done with Daniel Jones. It makes the most sense. Sure, if the franchise tag him, it's only a 1-year commitment, but it also makes it so you can't move any of that money around. That's $32 million against your cap next year. I think in a more ideal circumstance, it's better for Jones and the Giants because Jones gets a little more. more guaranteed money.
It won't be a true 32 million though, because usually, all right. So the way it works, and by the way, folks, we're going to set a date.
We'll do the cap
for the cap show. I know a lot of you have asked me about that. We will set a date for that. I'll talk to Taina and Dog after we tape here tonight. The way it works is always the first year of the contract is going to be lower. So even though the APY will come out to, figure about 35 million, let's say, the actual first year is going to be lower. And the reason for that is when a guy signs, he's going to get a check just for signing his name.
Oh, I know that. I was talking about from the context of the franchise tag. That money you can't move around.
Yeah.
That's 32 million against the cap.
That's guaranteed. You franchise tag him, and that becomes guaranteed once he signs that.
Yeah, that's the whole value of the 4 or 5 year deals. You can maneuver the money, so you only, like you said, you do guarantees. You do,
and
it's only 18, 19 against the cap.
You can put incentives in there, and I put an article up on Giants Country about Saquon Barkley and some of the incentives they can do with him. I'm going to do something similar for Daniel Jones. I haven't finished it yet. I've started writing it. And I'm also going to attempt to structure a Daniel Jones contract. So that's coming on Giants Country. Hopefully I'll have that done by tomorrow. But there are things you can do to boost up the value that if he doesn't hit, the Giants get a cap credit. So, for example, you throw in a not likely to be earned incentive. And the way it works is you look at what he accomplished in 2022. All right. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but let's say I know he completed at least 100 passes.
Oh, yeah.
So you say, okay, Daniel, we are going to give you $500,000 if you complete at least 100 passes. All right, easy money. He did it last year. The assumption is he can earn it, and do it again. Now, let's say I don't think he completed 500 passes. Did he?
No. I don't know.
Okay. So now you give him what's called a not likely to be earned incentive. You say, okay, you know what? If you complete 500 passes in 2023, we'll give you $1 million as a bonus. Yeah. And if he doesn't reach that, they get a cap credit. So that's the beauty of it by using these incentives, because there are certain things that guys who are willing to bet on themselves, they can get cap credits if they fit, the team can get cap credits if the guys fall short for whatever the reason. And that's why I think there's going to be a lot of that stuff built in. Now with the guaranteed money, and I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because I wanted to save this for the cap show. Maybe you do something like what they did with Josh Allen, where every year they guarantee for the next year a portion of his percentage. So it's a tiered guaranteed system. It's actually pretty, clever.
I'm going to look at Josh Allen's contract as you're telling me this. Yeah.
Yeah. If you decide to cut Josh Allen, which I don't see the Bills doing, now you're not going to get hit. So there's a difference between fully guaranteed and guaranteed at signing. And this is all stuff we'll get into when we do the cap show. So just a little teaser here for those of you who are into that stuff. I know it sounds complicated, but I'll try and explain it as best as I can. And Scott Young asked about, do I think Daniel wants to be a Giant? Yes. And then Zig 8100 asked about the tag. Can they take the tag off if they wind up signing him to a contract? Yes, that's what would happen. They would take the tag off, but they cannot reuse the tag on another player. Once that tag is applied, if he signs an extension, that's it. The tag has been used for the year. They won't be able to use it again on another player. So that's how that works.
There you go.
All right. So just a little taste there with the salary cap stuff.
But yeah, back to your initial question in terms of like what contract do I foresee if he's not tagged? I think it's going to be now, maybe it takes a little bit less if it's a longer contract where he gets more of a commitment. Like if it's like a 5-year deal where it's like he's like definitely locked in for 3 years, maybe it takes $30 million a year, $30 million a year. But if it's going to be a contract that's like only a 2-year commitment, 4 years, yeah, I think it starts at about 33 to 35 per. So you're looking at like 4 years, 135, 4 years, 140, no less than 4 years, 120. I think if you're looking at a 4-year deal, 3-year deal, upwards of 100. I think that's what you're looking at.
I think I think it makes sense to do a shorter term contract because look, here's the other thing. We all would like to think that the year that Jones had this year was not a one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. We don't want to, obviously no one wants to see him come out next year and wet the bed, so to speak. So if you're the Giants, you say, okay, Daniel was 25 now? You say to him, okay, Daniel, we'll do a short-term deal, 3 years. You keep progressing. If you keep going on the path that, the upward path, we'll tear up the deal and we'll give you a longer term deal, an opportunity to earn even more. That to me makes the most sense, as opposed to giving him a 5 or 6 year deal. He'll outplay that deal in no time. And then all of a sudden you're going to have dead money that you're going to, because if he outplays that deal, now you're going to have dead money because, oh, I want to renegotiate because I've outplayed it. That's the danger with the long-term contract. So I think a short-term deal makes the most sense for Daniel Jones. I think that's what they're going to do.
And it's why they can't use the tag on Barkley, because they need that as bargaining power. Because
they got to get him done.
They got to get him done because if they already use the tag on Barkley, Jones' agent will just be like, all right, we're going to hit the open market because somebody's going to give us that 5-year, 100 and whatever.
Washington.
Yeah, Washington will give us 5 years, 180. We'll just sit it out if you can't franchise tag him. So I think it's why they need that power, because if Jones and his camp know that they have that power, they may be willing to sign a 3-year deal. I don't care if it's 3 years or 4 years. A deal where the Giants could get out after 2 years. They may be willing to do that if they know the Giants have that power to utilize the franchise tag.
Yeah, and if Jones outplays that contract, you just extend him. You can, and even if he plays through if he gets a 3-year deal, by the time that's up, he's 28. He's still in his prime. It's not like he couldn't get another massive deal. And for Daniel Jones, you could think to yourself, well, listen, I'm in a good situation here. I'm going to be in the system for a second year. Obviously, I improved. I believe in these guys. They're going to get talent around me. So I'm going to keep progressing. And then when this contract is up, then I can really get my money. Whereas opposed if he goes to Washington and he gets that one big deal and then he wets the bed over there, then he's not going to get another contract. He'll get very little. So it's easy for him to say, all right, I want to stay here. I want to be here. For the first time, he'd have some stability in his career. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes a long way for a player. I've talked about this before. We'll see what they do. It's going to be a very interesting offseason, but I really do. And I certainly didn't think this at the beginning of the year, but I definitely think Daniel Jones will be back here in one way or the other.
And even if Kafka leaves this year, which I still don't think Kafka's going to get a head coaching job this year. I'd be surprised. It's not a slight on Kafka. I know some people are like, why do you keep saying that? I just don't get the sense it's going to be this year. I think he's going to be a head coach and eventually move on. But even if he leaves, remember, the system is basically what Dable brought down with a little bit of Kansas City mixed in and a little bit here and there from other offensive assistants. So there is still going to be that stability as long as Dable is here on offense, because this is primarily, I think, a lot of his philosophies molded to the talent that the Giants have.
I think Kafka's coming back.
I think so too.
Yeah, because one of the 3 jobs they already hired Wright today.
Yeah.
So now you got Houston's the only one I could see at this point because they gave him a second interview. But
Houston. But I think doesn't Houston want D'Amico Ryans?
That's the rumors I've heard. Yeah, which he should get the job over him. He's more advanced. He's been the DCI for 3 years now with the 49ers.
To me, the wild card is the Colts, because you never know what the Colts are going to do.
That's true. They might hire me.
You'd probably be better than Jeff Saturday. So
yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh.
They gave him a second interview, so maybe he'll get the job again.
Maybe. I mean, I could see it happening, but you want to see these jobs, disappear. And I mean, I'm curious to see where Sean Payton lands, because that's going to create a domino effect, I think. So
I heard a rumor that Payton might not take a job now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard a rumor that he's considering going back to TV for a year.
Okay, maybe.
Or read it. I didn't hear it. I read it.
Maybe he doesn't. If that's true, maybe he just doesn't like the options that are out there.
Yeah, I don't know who would want that Texans job. I mean, a guy like Payton's not going to want to go and start a rebuild.
And then also Denver. Denver's got
they're a mess too. They have no picks. They have a Russell Wilson contract as an albatross.
Yeah, that's who wants that.
If he had a chance to go to the Chargers, he might take that job with a young quarterback like Justin Herbert. That might be the way he goes. It's an up and coming team. But yeah, I can't see a guy like Sean Payton going to Houston or Indianapolis and starting all over. I couldn't see that happening.
I wonder though if Payton wanted the Cowboys job, would Jerry Jones dump McCarthy in a heartbeat? Probably, I would think.
I would imagine McCarthy's not a good coach. I don't think he's a good coach. I mean, that guy's had an overwhelming amount of talent his entire career, and they won 1 Super Bowl. That's because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, let's face it, not because of Mike McCarthy. I mean, you can't have much more talent than Dallas has.
Oh,
they're extremely talented, and yet
And
every year they have a good regular season, they flounder in the playoffs every year.
It's usually on offense where they flounder. I mean, and by the way, did you see Dan Quinn withdrew from head coaching consideration again?
I did. Yeah.
What is it going to take to get him out of the division?
Yeah, get out. Go somewhere.
I mean, the stuff he did with that defense was amazing.
Yeah, go back to Atlanta.
You got to tip your cap. He's done a great job. The year before he got there, they were the worst defense in football. The year before he got there, Dan Quinn.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. So, we talked about Daniel. Let's talk about Saquon now and the numbers. Now, there was a report by, I believe, Ralph Acciano of Fox Sports saying that Saquon's looking to be paid in the same neighborhood as McCaffrey, which is around $16 million. Not necessarily be paid more, but in the same neighborhood. So I don't know if that's true or not. The offer that I recall seeing, and also I had heard about this, is the Giants' offer was somewhere in the $12 million per year range.
That's what I read too. 12 and a half.
All right. So now I wrote this article over on Giants Country. It's up now. The $12 million would put him in the same company as like Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Chubb, and I think Kamara is the other one.
Yeah, I'll pull up the salaries now.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So I went and I looked this up, and again, this is in the article I wrote over on Giants Country. Those guys signed their contracts in either 2020 or 2021. So I could see, for inflation, if you want to call it that, maybe raising the rate a little bit, but I wouldn't go too much beyond 13. Now, I would say to Saquon, all right, I'm going to give you some incentives and see if you can, if you're so confident in yourself and your training and everything, you should be able to hit these incentives. So maybe give him an incentive for finishing as the league rushing leader, finishing with at least 10 rushing touchdowns, which he's done twice in his career, finishing as
1,000 yards,
1,000 yards, or postseason honors, which again could be not likely to be earned incentives that you push into next year. So there are, and then I would also for Saquon, because of the injury history he's had at the NFL, and I know he was healthy this past year, but running backs do get dinged. I mean, he did have the shoulder, which he played through. I would put it in a per game roster bonus.
How old is Saquon's 26, right?
I believe he's 26, so I would not give him more than a 3-year deal. I think.
I'm thinking 3 years, $40 million would be fair for.
Yeah, because I'm looking. I went to the running back chart just to see. So the highest range you have Elliott, which we all know was an absurd contract. That was a 6-year deal for $90 million.
Yeah, he's not getting that. No way.
50 guaranteed, by the way, which is insane for a running back. So that's just on another level.
And he's been crap ever since that too.
What'd you say?
He's been crap ever since that. Tony Pollard's better than Ezekiel Elliott is.
Yeah.
Well, but Tony Pollard with the broken leg now.
That was rough for him.
But that might have saved Zeke from being cut. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
No, the range I see for Barkley, though, when I look at it, and especially when you look at the age, because, yes, McCaffrey signed a $64 million contract, which was just over $16 million a year, but he was 23 when he signed it. Barkley is 26. So when Derrick Henry signed his 4-year contract, he got $50 million, $12.5 million a year. He was 26. Aaron Jones was 26, 4 years, $48 million. So I think you hit it on the head. And because of inflation, slightly higher, not much, but slightly higher, maybe $13 million a year instead of 12. But I think that's the range. I think it's like 3 years, 39, 4 years, 52. I think that's the range for Saquon Barkley. And if he wants more than that, the Giants, if they can't tag him, have to let him go. If they can tag him, which would mean they would have signed Daniel Jones already, they tag him. But I agree. I don't think that they exceed that $13 million per year.
And then here's the other thing. I went and I looked up the numbers. Saquon hasn't touched the ball more than I want to say it was 34%. Again, it's in the article, but he's only actually carried the ball on 30 something. It's like a low 30s% of the snaps that he's played in. You figure they're going to upgrade the receiver core. They'll probably add another tight end. It's not like Saquon's going to be the focal point every week of the offense. I mean, he's going to be part of it. Don't get me wrong, but they like to mix it up a little bit. So maybe 1 week Saquon has 5 carries. Maybe 1 week he'll get 15 carries. You mix it up a little bit, and you have to take that into consideration. So McCaffrey does everything. Saquon can do everything, but interestingly enough, this year they didn't use him as much as a receiver as I thought they would. Certainly not as much as they did in his rookie year.
Yeah, listen, I definitely think he's a multifaceted weapon, but McCaffrey's a better receiver than Saquon is. McCaffrey, like in terms of a route runner, like McCaffrey is like literally like as crisp as a receiver. Like he's a really good route runner. Yeah, he's just not for the job. I'm not trying to take anything away from Barkley. I fully recognize how talented the guy is. I think he's an incredible talent. But at the same time, if you're Joe Schoen, you have to think about the long-term interest of this football team. And Saquon is 26. I mean, how much are you going to commit to him when you have all like if we had a team like the Eagles right now, and we had the options that we have in terms of our salary cap, I'd say screw it, give him $15-16 million a year, give him that 4-year contract. We already got the line in place. We already got that Super Bowl roster. He could be the guy, but we don't. We have holes all over this team that still need to be filled. So I don't think Joe Schoen can do that. I don't think he could give him as much as I'd like to see him do it because I want to see. I'm a team guy before the player. So the best interest of this team is not to overcommit to Saquon Barkley. You can't give him $16 million a year. You just can't do it.
No, I totally agree. And I want to put this question up from Dustin Mosley, who wants to know is the transition tag for Barkley a good option? So the transition tag, let me just see what that amount is. I don't think it is, but I'm going to tell you why, but I just want to get the amount up here. The transition tag for a running back is $8.889 million. Here's why I don't think it's a good idea to use the transition tag, because the transition tag allows the player to go out and sign an offer sheet with another team. So basically another team is doing your negotiating for you. I don't think Joe Schoen wants to have another team doing his negotiating for him. So if let's say Barkley gets an offer sheet from, let's say, the Jets, and he signs it, the Giants now have, I think, something like 7 days to match it. And if they don't, Barkley goes to the Jets, and that's it. So I don't think they want to let the Jets set the market price for Barkley, if you know what I mean. That's why I just, you don't see the transition tag used a whole lot, I don't think, anymore. And that's why teams don't want other teams doing their negotiating for them. So I don't think it's going to be, it's going to be a cheaper option, yes, but nah, I in this case,
if you do that to Barkley, he's definitely holding out.
Oh,
like it's one thing if you can do the franchise tag, which there's a good chance to hold out. Then if you will go with the cheaper tag, there's no point. There's no way he's even going to play.
Right. Remember he had what he played for, what I want to say $7 million a couple of years ago, and then $10 million. So he's kind of played below market value for him. I'm just going to look it up real quick, but I'm pretty sure he was on. Okay, so he played. His cap number was
what, 7.2 this year or something.
It was 7.2, which was less than his 10.025 in 2021. Yeah. So if you're Barkley, you don't want to go backwards. You want to go upward. You want some financial stability. And here's the other thing, like Chris was saying, he's 26 years old. He's had a lot of wear and tear with the injuries and also with the ball carries. This is probably his last chance to get a really good payday.
Yeah, absolutely. Because so he's going to be past his prime by the time the next contract rolls around, it'll be 29, 30. Nobody's giving a 30-year-old running back a lot of money. It's not, unless you're Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is his chance cashed in. He was finally healthy all season. But, for me, again, I love Saquon. He's incredibly talented, one of the most talented running backs in the league. But as far as positional value goes, I think the Giants, if you have to, kind of like they did with Zeitler or Bradbury, where it's just a cap casualty, or you just have to get other positions in order, and he's kind of a last resort. You got to fix this offensive line. Your quarterback's the most important position, and if you don't have a good offensive line, it's not really going to matter who your running back is. And if you have a really good offensive line, it's not so much about the running back himself; it's about the running game. Look at Philadelphia. Miles Sanders is a really good running back, but they can run in a multitude. They can use a bunch of different guys to run the ball.
Backup in college.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it just goes to show you, if you have a good offensive line,
Yes.
You can take an above average running back.
Dog.
You could take a guy like Josh Jacobs or a guy like Tony Pollard that may not cost as much as Saquon Barkley, but you get a good offensive line in front of him. And look what Tony Pollard did with Dallas.
All you got to do is look at the 2008 team. We say it all the time. They had the best running tandem in football.
Yes,
and it was made up of 2 7th-round picks and a 4th-round pick.
Yep. Exactly.
Because they had the line.
Yep. It's exactly
it. You hit the nail right on the head. So if you're Shane, you'd like to have Saquon back. He's been a great, player.
Clubhouse guy. He's a class act.
He's everything you could ask for, but you cannot overspend on the guy.
Hey, as Shane said, Patty, it's a business, right?
Yep.
It's the end of the day, it's a business, and they got to do what's best for the team.
Absolutely. I mean, and we'll see if he comes back. I know he wants to come back. He said all the right things. But what's the agent going to tell him once he sits down with the agent? Is the agent going to sit there and promise him the sun, moon, and the stars? That sometimes factors into the equation. What conversations are they going to have? What does his agent feel that she can get him? So sometimes, a player will say one thing and then the agent will be like, hey, baby, I can get you this, that, and the other thing. And that's when it gets a little sticky. So I don't know. I mean, his agent is Kim Miali, and I'm just trying to think. She's with Rock Nation. I'm trying to think how long has she been an agent for? I want to say, has she been an agent for 10 years yet? I know she's been around for a few years, but I don't know if she's like considered like a veteran, like say a Tom Condon, for example.
I can tell you how long she's been an agent. 1 second.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, she's a good agent from what I understand, but sometimes you just wonder what they tell their clients. I've seen cases where agents have told their clients one thing and the player digs in and says, okay, well, I'm not coming back, because my agent told me I can get this. And agent don't, they got to be careful about writing checks that their mouth, that their mouths can't cash. So
she represents Leonard Fournette, Ronnie Stanley, Saquon Barkley.
How long has she been an agent for? Should say when she was certified.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Yeah, she's.
I just see a picture in the article. Dare to live the life.
I can look it up. Later.
Yeah, I can't find it right now in this article.
The point is, and listen, all agents, just so you know, they all have to pass the same test. So, experiences doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm just saying, the more contracts you negotiate, and she's obviously, she has a good, stable of clients, if you will. So it's just, sometimes when you have
not as pretty as you, by the way, Patty.
Oh,
I didn't mean to cut you off. But
checks in the mail.
But I saw a picture. I'm like, yeah, she's pretty.
Nah, I've met her a couple of times. She's a great lady. I have utmost respect for her. A lot of ladies now breaking into the agent business. Nicole Lynn, who's really, really good. Kelly Masters, who I absolutely love. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. Molly, what's her last name? Now I'm forgetting her last name. There's, I want to say McKinney, but I can't remember her last name. So there's a bunch of ladies who do a fantastic job with, in the agent community, which up until a few years ago was primarily a man's world, kind of like the sports writing industry, but
right.
So we'll see though. Cause again, Saquon said, look, I have to sit down with Kim and I've got, and talk about it. And, that's, and I expect that. I totally expect that, find out what your options are, try to anticipate, and what conversations did they have with Joe Schoen earlier in the year to where she could say, okay, this is the vibe I'm getting, so I think though, Schoen, from what I've heard, goes into the negotiations in good faith. He's hands-on, maybe the numbers are worked out by Kevin Abrams or somebody else, but he's hands-on. And I am confident.
Let me ask you, Patty,
that it'll work out.
You asked me, what's your prediction with Barkley and Jones? How do you think it plays out?
I think they prioritize Jones and look to get him done before that March 7 deadline. Mm-hmm. And if they can do that, Barkley gets tagged.
Yeah.
Because I think they would be comfortable having him play on the $10 million tag.
Of course.
I mean, because that's a bargain.
I don't think Barkley would be comfortable.
Well, Barkley wouldn't like it. He wouldn't like it. I think he's already said, look, nobody's going to like it. Now, would he hold out? That I don't know.
But here's the thing. If you let's say we could do this, and hopefully we can. Hopefully Daniel Jones is willing to sign that 4-year, $130 million half guaranteed contract, whatever the numbers are going to be, before the franchise tag deadline. Because if you then tag Barkley, you could still operate in good faith with him and say, listen, we want to now give you, we don't want you to have to play on the tag. We want to give you a 3-year deal. But if now you're negotiating from a position of power. So suddenly now maybe he's willing to take that 3 for 39 or that 4 for 50 as opposed to the 4 for 70 that he's probably aiming for. Mm-hmm. So just because we tag him doesn't mean he's going to start the year on the tag.
Right. And that's a good point, because a lot of people say, oh, if you tag Barkley, that's it. You're going to create ill will and he's not going to play on it, et cetera, et cetera. They have until July.
It just gives you more time to negotiate too. That's really what that's for.
Yeah.
Right. To buy time and keep other teams away. And they have until, I think it's July 15th to get a long-term deal done. Mm-hmm. So I would have no problem. And I think as long as that's communicated to Saquon to say, look, we want you back. We want to work something out. We feel we can work something out, but we don't want to have, other teams in your ear.
Right, you don't want to get in a bidding war with other
teams.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think if he if that's made clear, it should be, it should work out. So, and if he sits out, look, it's not to his benefit to sit out, because, even though now he's eligible for all his benefits and pensions and stuff like that, I can't see Saquon sitting out. If he loves the game as much as he says he does, I don't see him holding out. I just
there was who was it? Was it not that it mattered because he got paid, but Le'Veon Bell. He was a guy that held out, and then when he came back, he was a shell of what he was. Now, granted, some of that has to be you're with Pittsburgh, which is one of the best run organizations in football, and you go to the Jets, and the Jets will jet. I don't know what else to say. The Jets always seem like they make the right moves and the right picks. And they have worse luck than we do. The Jets started off real good, and when Breece Hall went down, that was the end of their offense. And it didn't matter who the quarterback was. Zach Wilson was doing okay. When Breece Hall went down, he was playing great. I thought the Jets had one of the best drafts in the league last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And Breece Hall was playing great, and when he went down, that was kind of the end. But the Jets just have really bad luck, and now there's all this talk about Aaron Rodgers going over there, and they did this to Brett Favre.
What are they doing?
They're the Jets. I don't know what the Jets do. The Jets will jet. I don't know. That's all you can say. The Jets will jet. It doesn't matter. Aaron Rodgers is.
They literally made this Aaron Rodgers move like 10 years ago with Brett Favre.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. That. I was just
what are they doing? Like, they think this is actually going to work out?
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is almost 40 years old. I mean, I don't know what you. The Jets, they will just the
Jets.
And I have no ill will towards the Jets. I was rooting for the Jets. I would love seeing the Jets and Giants both play well this year, but I don't know. Just they have to be more cursed than us. Everything they do fails, but that just wouldn't be a bright move to go out there and give up whatever they want for Aaron Rodgers. It's just I don't think the Jets are a quarterback away.
Right.
I mean, they might be, but if you're going to make that move, get a guy that's 29.
Right.
Yeah.
Rodgers
is 40. Look, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I you know what? Let John Butch of Locked On Jets worry about that.
Right.
We got at least the Giants have a plan. What they want to do. All right, listen, guys.
And that's the other thing, Patty. Real quick, I know there's definitely less of these fans now than there was at the beginning of the year, because I was definitely a guy that did not believe Daniel Jones would be back. I had my doubts about Daniel Jones. I think there's a lot less people that have doubts about him now. But when I talk about this, there's still some people like, I don't want him back. He's mid. He's a mid quarterback. You can win with a middle range quarterback. You can win with a guy in the middle of the pack. There's no question about this. It is not easy to find a franchise quarterback. Everybody just that wants Daniel Jones going just think it's so easy. Oh, just go out there and trade up and get Will Levis. Well, who the hell knows if Will Levis is going to be any good? Go out there and get this guy, get that guy. Like Pat Mahomes grows on a tree. Oh, just draft the next Pat Mahomes. Yeah, it's real easy to do that. Go draft the next Trevor Lawrence. It's not that easy. Ask the Jets how hard it is to get a quarterback. Mark Sanchez,
why do you think
Donald
paid what they do?
What's that, Chris? Sorry.
Why do you think they get paid what they do, BadDog? It's because they're hard to find.
Exactly.
Yep.
So Giants fans that still doubt Jones or don't want Jones, you have to look at these other teams. Look at the Bears. They're just talking about the Bears getting rid of Justin Fields now because they're picking first in the draft. Then maybe they want Bryce Young. Maybe they want to trade. Look at the 49ers. They said, we got our future in Trey Lance. We're going to trade up and get Trey Lance. We don't believe in Garoppolo. Lance gets hurt, then Garoppolo gets hurt. And here's Brock Purdy, who's the last pick in the draft, doing Tom Brady things over there in San Francisco. You never know where this quarterback's going to come from. He's got to fit in the right system. He's got to be the right guy. Everything has to go right. Just because you bring a Will Levis here doesn't mean Will Levis is going to succeed. It depends on the situation the quarterback comes into. And like Chris mentioned, and I know I've mentioned this, and I'm sure you have too, Patty, we have so many holes in this team. If you're sitting there and trading away draft picks to move up and get one position, you are starting all over again and putting that quarterback in harm's way. It doesn't make sense. So
you're telling me it doesn't make sense to give up our first round pick this year, probably a future
next year
round pick, and then you not use that pick on a wide receiver, but
lineman.
You know what,
guys, Anthony Richardson and put him on the team with the worst wide receiver core in the league.
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense. Are you kidding me?
No, I don't think.
Dog, hold that thought about trading up, because actually I have a question I'm going to pose to you and Chris. I got to take a quick break, but I have a question for you.
Holding everybody in suspense.
Yes, I'll hold that thought. We'll be right back, everybody. Hey, Giant fans, the NFL playoffs are still here, even though the Giants are out of them. And we at the Locked On NFL Network are really excited about our new sports betting partner, FanDuel, the #1 sports book in America. If you're new to FanDuel, they have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props and more. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Giants Live. Entertainah and Dog. And okay, I've got a question for you guys, because actually I was talking about this with a colleague of mine. I'm going to put it to you guys. I'm going to put it out to those who are listening and following along in the chat. Given what we know about how the wide receiver free agency class is shaping up, and I think we can all agree that it's not very enticing. Okay. Now, given what we have seen so far, what we know right now about the draft class, if you are the Giants and you know you need a #1 receiver, do you, if he becomes available via trade, pull the trigger and make a trade for DeAndre Hopkins?
Depends.
And if so, what do you give up?
Yeah, it depends. Like
2/3.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would get it done.
The one thing I don't want to do, Patty, is what Hopkins says that he's going to want. I'm not giving him an extension.
Okay.
He's 31. He's had injuries. He's going to be 33 at the conclusion of the contract. Do I think DeAndre Hopkins still has good football in him? Yes. Do I think people that point to the stats that no, his stats were very impressive this year. When you factor in that he didn't have Kyler Murray throwing him the football, he had a third-string quarterback.
And didn't he miss part of the year because of
missed like half the season
or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I still think DeAndre Hopkins is a really good wide receiver, but I'm not willing to give him a contract extension. If I could get him, I'd even give up the second-round pick this year to get him, because that's like the 50th pick. I'll give up the 50th pick to get him, but I'm not giving you a contract extension.
Okay.
Yeah. It wouldn't make sense, because we just talked about how you want to sign your guys. Yeah. And it's hard to give a 33-year-old wide receiver more. What does DeAndre Hopkins make? $18 million? He's not going to play for less, I can't imagine.
Right. I mean, basically, you would swap him out for Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, and why bother? He'll be more productive than Kenny Golladay, but he's also older than Kenny Golladay. And again, he has to come in and get used to the system. And what if he flops here? And you're paying that guy all that money, and then we're in the same situation. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to extend him. You know, if he just wants to come here and play for 2 years and then we see where he's at, okay. But I just think this is such a deep wide receiver class that the Giants could get a
really
good wide receiver. So I wouldn't want to give DeAndre Hopkins an extension, and I'm not giving up a major draft pick for him.
Yeah, so my answer is I wouldn't trade for him because I think he's going to want an extension.
Yeah.
So just based on that, I wouldn't trade for him.
I'll probably end up going to Philadelphia as my
and then you'll really pull your hair out.
Oh, yeah, everybody's going to Philadelphia.
I was just curious because talking to a colleague of mine, he's like, he would consider making the trade. And I'm like, I personally wouldn't. I don't think, I mean, if Shane didn't make the trade for somebody younger when he had the opportunity before the trade deadline,
right?
Why would he do it now for a guy on the wrong side of 30? I mean, if that's the case, then, why not just sign Odell? Why not just sign, any old 30 plus receiver?
Yeah. Look at that. Seriously, look at how good T.Y. Hilton did with Dallas. T.Y. Hilton was actually pretty impressive. He didn't make any money. They never give out anything to get him. So those guys are out there. But you got to also look at Isaiah Hodgins is coming back, and he may not be number one, but he's definitely a solid commodity. He's got good rapport with Daniel Jones. And you also have to look at a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, who started to really produce before he got hurt. And obviously Shane and Dable thought enough of him to take him with their second round pick. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of talent there. So you do have a couple pieces. It would be nice to have a pure number one receiver, but like I said, there's a lot of good receivers in this draft. I like Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. I love Quentin Johnson. He's not going to fall to us.
He's falling down mocks. I mean,
Quentin Johnson is a guy I would love. Addison's a guy I would love. Mario Williams, Marvin Mims, Jalen Hyatt. There's a lot of good. The kid from Ohio State, who I can never say his name.
JSN.
Yes.
JSN.
So there's a lot of good, and there's going to be quarterbacks taken and linemen and linebackers. I think the Giants, where they pick at 25th, I think they can get an absolutely solid wide receiver with that pick if that's the route they chose to go. So,
all right. So
I'd rather do it that way than. Again, because we're not talking about being one wide receiver away from winning a championship. A.J. Brown's in his prime going to Philadelphia. DeAndre Hopkins, even though he's really good, is getting out of his prime. So, I'd rather take a young guy in a rookie contract,
Yeah, I'm willing to make a trade, but it's got to make sense. It's got, ideally it's a younger guy, ideally, but it's got to make sense. I'm not moving heaven and earth to get a guy. I realize this is a multi-year process. It's not going to just be fixed in 1 year. And Joe Schoen kind of said that. I don't remember who asked.
And they could get by probably. I mean, it would be nice to have a legitimate one receiver, but as long as they have consistency with these other guys, and they showed that they could, that they could.
They're going to add a receiver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the free agent class right now is.
Yeah, one of your colleagues asked Shane about the number one wide receiver, and he basically said, well, listen, we know it's a need. I'd love a number one wide receiver, but there's a lot of number one wide receivers sitting home right now. There's other aspects of this football team we need to improve. So that to me was him saying, sure, if the right opportunity presents itself, we'll do it, but we're not going to force it. We also realize we need the linebacker, cornerback, everywhere on this team. So I think Joe Schoen's mission going into this draft and the offseason overall, but mainly the draft, just get me the best football player on my draft board, because I realize I have needs at every position.
Yeah, that's probably what they would do is take BPA.
Yeah, I don't think if it's close, they'll probably go receiver. But if there's like a linebacker significantly higher on their board, they're going to take the linebacker, or they're going to take the center. If the center is significantly higher, he's going to take the best player on his board. That's what he's going to do.
Which is the way to do it. All right, now speaking of the draft, let me put this one to you. The Giants have the 25th pick in the first round because Miami forfeited. So given where they're drafting, would you consider trading down to pick up more picks?
Yes.
Since
absolutely. If they feel that they can get one of the players that they want and trade back, I mean, the Patriots did it for years. So there's nothing, again, we talked about building through the draft, and what better way to do that by getting more draft picks. The more draft picks you have, the more percentage, the higher percentage you have to hit on one of them. So if you can get 14 draft picks instead of 11, or get future draft picks for next year, that always works too, because you don't know what comes in next year. Maybe you need those draft picks next year to trade up and get somebody you like. So there's never anything wrong with getting extra draft capital, especially when you're in the situation that the Giants are in. And that's why being able to sign your own guys is really important, because then you can play around with the draft and say, okay, we feel like there's 3 other guys back here that we can get at 32. and we'll take an extra couple second rounders or whatever it would take to move up 8 spots. I don't know the position, like the pick value. There's some scale, but I don't know what it is. So if they can go back and, get a second rounder for that, an extra second rounder or a couple thirds or whatever, it's not a bad idea.
All right. So, Amazing Guy says, but we wouldn't get the 50-year option if we trade out of the first. No, they wouldn't. But Shane has said that he would not be against extending guys. So maybe you don't even have to go and say, well, we're going to exercise the 50-year option, which is usually a big chunk of change anyway, and it's guaranteed. So if you trade out of the first round, you can, if a guy works out for you, that's a second round, a third round pick, whatever.
Yeah, you just give him an extension. Right.
You extend them and you get the cap number instead of being dictated what that cap number is going to be because of the option year and the average that's in the league. You now set your cap number. This goes back to what I was saying about, with the transition tag. Why let somebody else or some other factor do your negotiating for you?
And that's also 4 years in the future. So you hope that the guy's good enough where you would consider giving him a 5th-year tag, but that guy's got to be productive for years.
And most of the time, it doesn't happen.
Right. So a lot of times players don't get that 5th year. Like Dexter Lawrence was a steal. Saquon Barkley was a steal. $7.2 million for Saquon Barkley 5th-year option would have made no sense not to do it. And the same thing with Dexter Lawrence. It made no sense not to do it. But Daniel Jones, again, I would think it was $23 million, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, that was a mistake." But again, like Chris said, people get on our case about how did you not believe in Daniel Jones? And like we said, our own GM had his questions, or they would have said $23 million done.
And let me ask you, Patty. Let's say the Giants did that. Let's say, which they were never going to do, but let's just say they did it for the people that argue that was a mistake not to do it now in hindsight.
You're talking about picking
up the $23 million before the year started. Daniel Jones.
Okay.
You don't think Daniel Jones' agent after the year he had this year would have been like, he's not playing on that? Of course he would have been. He would have forced the Giants to give him an extension anyway. Mm-hmm. So that was never going to work. Like, there's no – the 5th-year option for Daniel Jones never made any sense from the standpoint for the New York Giants.
It didn't for many reasons, not just for the money, because, again, the Giants, the cap space was bad. And once you give that 5th-year option, it is guaranteed. It's not, okay, it's going to be guaranteed next year. It's guaranteed the second you apply it.
Plus, he was coming off an injury, major injury.
He was coming off a neck injury, which at the time they didn't know, how he was going to be. I don't think he was fully cleared until March, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a while.
It was a while. All right. And they had a new system, a new coach. They just wanted to see how things worked out. So I had no problem with him turning down that 50-year option for him. I figured Dexter Lawrence made more sense. It was a cheaper option. He had never missed a game. It made too much sense to, not to do it the way that the Giants did it.
Yeah. And again, your quarterback is going to cost a lot more money. So,
sure.
A defensive tackle, it's important, but it's not as important as a quarterback. So, they just went into this season saying, hey, listen, we're going to take a look and see if Daniel Jones is our guy. Because, again, they had no allegiance to Daniel Jones. They didn't draft Daniel Jones. So if he had a year like he did in 2021 where he battled injury, he was turning the ball over, and he wasn't really productive, they would have said, okay, now we're going to – and the Giants would have had a poor year on top of it. If Daniel Jones didn't play well, and Chris and I talked about this at the beginning of the year, if Daniel Jones had a bad year, the Giants were going to have a bad year. And then they were going to be able to get a quarterback because they probably would have been drafting in the top 10. But if Jones had a good year, we talk about all the time, the Giants are going to go as far as Daniel Jones takes him. And Daniel Jones would have to have a winning season to get in the playoffs in order to get an extension, which is exactly, or for them to offer him a contract, which is exactly what he did. So he proved that he could do it. They said he did everything they asked him to do. He took a major step forward. I felt like he grew in the pocket as his awareness got better, his maturity, his confidence, everything that you wanted to see maybe a couple of years ago. I did because I'm impatient. It's just the way I am as a human being. And it has nothing to do with the Giants. I'm just an impatient fellow. So I wanted him to see that step quicker because in this day and age, it's what have you done for me lately? And we see these young quarterbacks come in and be Josh Allen and be Pat Mahomes in their second year and winning Super Bowls. And we're like, why ain't that our guy? But sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer. I should know better than anybody. I grew up in the Phil Simms era. It took him 5 years to develop. He didn't develop until 1984. And same with Eli Manning, although he was throwing a lot of touchdowns, he turned the ball over a lot early in his career. And even in 2007, he led the league in interceptions, won a Super Bowl. Things were, hey, look at Eli. So it made sense the way it worked out. And I think it's going to work out for everybody. It works out for Daniel Jones. He doesn't have to play for $23 million. He's going to get paid more, whether that's with the Giants or somebody else. And Shannon Dable said, we got our quarterback and we want to keep him here. That way we don't have to address it in the draft. We can go in other positions that we need. So it's a good move. These guys, to me, like I said, they're young. They have 21st century analytical minds, and they're smart. They're football smart. So I'm going to, whatever they do, well, if Jones is back, great. If he's not, they decide they want to go somewhere else. I'm not going to kill these guys. Same thing I say on Barkley. I'm going to say I believe in what they're doing. They have a direction. They know what they want to do. We got to give them time to develop their plan, their system, and get their players in here. And if they want to build around Daniel Jones, awesome. And if they can't work something out, and they say, sorry, man, another team wants to give you $40 million a year. We're not doing it. I got to believe in what, they think.
Until such time when they prove that they're not in it, or, they make bad decisions. So far, so good with Shane. I mean, the mere fact, I was quite a surprise. Pro Football Writer awards were announced. I don't think Shane was it Pro Football. See, there's so many postseason awards now, but Shane did not get Executive of the Year. I think Howie Roseman got it. And considering what Shane had to work with cap wise, I thought he did a brilliant job. I mean, he touched that Kenny Galladay contract.
He did a really good job, but I don't think I would have given him Executive of the Year either. He did a really good job. He did everything I wanted him to do. But yeah, I would have given it to Roseman ahead of Shane.
Yeah, Roseman's the gold standard. I've said it time and again. I hate to give the Eagles credit, but you got Brandon Brown from that tree. Right. So I'm curious to see that. That's why I've been doing a lot of studying on not only how the Bills structure contracts, but also how the Eagles have done it, because there's going to be elements that maybe the Giants weren't doing in the past that are going to blend together on these contracts moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dable won Coach of the Year, though. Well deserved.
Yes, from Pro Football Writers.
Yeah.
I voted for him. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
And Barkley's a finalist for Comeback Player of the Year. One of the
Barkley,
three finalists.
I voted for,
Geno Smith in there?
Wasn't on the list,
yeah, Geno Smith.
I gave it to Barkley. Because, Geno Smith, I think, was on the list. And I'm like, good for Geno, but Barkley had to overcome a little bit more, I think.
I think it was Geno, McCaffrey, and Barkley. Those are the three finalists.
Yeah, I went with Barkley. I think Barkley had to overcome a little bit more than those other guys. But
how about Nick Gates?
He wasn't on. I don't recall him being on the ballot.
Should have been.
Should have been is right. Absolutely should have been. But you know what? Like I said, Nick is so chill and so laid back. He's like, I don't think it bothered him that he wasn't up for.
Oh, you can tell.
Off the field, he's chilled and laid back. But on the field, someone hits his quarterback. He's the first guy there. He's the first guy there.
I've also told you the story. He's the first guy. Like if he sees something in the locker room, like I'll never forget one time somebody knocked into me and I almost fell backwards and I thought he was going to jump down the person's throat. And I'm like, it was an accident, Nick. It's okay. And he's like, that guy hit you. I'm like, no, Nick, it was an accident. It's okay. I'm all right, So if he likes you, he's got your back. Just a terrific, terrific person. Yeah. Can't say enough about him. And again, those of you who joined the chat late, check out my interview with Nick. Unfortunately, we had to do it via phone with him, so I'm the only one appearing on video. I think he had a bit of a cold, which is maybe why he didn't come on camera. I'm not sure. He sounded like he had a cold, but still a good interview, I thought, and just a terrific guy. I hope he comes back, but I don't know if he is. So
I hope so. I
hope so too. So all right. So we've been talking about Saquon. We've been talking about Daniel. When we talk about free agencies, let's talk about some of these other guys. Julian Love, I think, is a guy they definitely want to get back. Who are some of the other guys? And there's a list on Over the Cap. A free agency.
Well, Slayton, I don't know if you mentioned him. He's one.
You think Slayton comes? I'm talking about guys.
No. I'm listing the free agents. I don't think Slayton's coming back. I have the list right here.
Okay, I just put the list on the screen there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I put the link. I should say, But all right, so you Saquon, Daniel. I don't know that Gates comes back. I think Feliciano is going to come back because I think what the plan is there, and this is just the impression I got, is bring back Feliciano because he's and just if they could draft a center for the long term, have Feliciano kind of keep that seat warm. I keep hoping Gates comes back, but I did not get that impression at all. Shepard, I know, would like to come back. And I could see them maybe giving him, like sort of like what they did with Mario Manningham a few years ago, give him an opportunity to come back and compete. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I know some people are like, oh, enough with Shepard. He's always hurt, but they like him. They like him in the building. He's been a positive influence, and he's been coaching those guys up behind the scene, doing everything he can that he's allowed to do when he was on, being on IR.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to have much of a market anyway. So
no, not coming off that ACL, and he knows it. He knows it too. Justin Ellis, I would move on from him. Yeah. Matt Breida, let's see. You know what? I would not be unhappy if they brought Matt Breida back.
No, if it was for a cheap deal, why not? I'd bring him back.
Yeah, I would. I think if it was a minimum deal, I would bring him back. Jihad Ward, I think he comes back as long as Wink Martindale is here. Jihad Ward is going to be here because he loves him.
Yeah.
Casey Kreider, the long snapper, I might consider moving on from him. I thought at times some of his snaps were slow and low, and they kind of, I don't know. I just didn't get the snaps didn't look crisp to me all the time. So maybe, I don't know, you move on from him.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I don't think it's going to affect the cap too much one way or the other.
Right.
So it's kind of, if he's your preference, stick with him. If he's not, you replace him for another.
All right, some other guys. We got Landon Collins, who I have a feeling is not going to be back. I'd love to see him back, but I don't know that he comes back.
Yeah.
Nicholas Williams, they're going to move on from. Tony Jefferson possibly comes back.
I think he will come back.
I think he will as well. Again, a
wink. Yeah.
Richie James, I think, will get another shot. Jamie Gillen.
No.
If he comes back, they better bring in competition for him. I'm sorry. And by the way,
Patty, you're telling me they can't find a guy in the draft in the 7th round better than him? Come on.
Or an
undrafted free agent.
By the way, before I go through the rest of the list, while we're on the subject of special teams, would you bring back Thomas McGahee if you're Dable, given how the special teams have kind of had struggles?
I would.
I mean, I like T-Mac. Don't get me wrong, but this is.
I don't think it's his fault, by the way. Lawrence.
Well, I don't either.
Lawrence Tynes brought this point up, and it was a really good one because of how depleted this roster is. It's affected the special teams because now you've asked the special teams guys to play with the ones, and it's affected their play on special teams. So I don't necessarily think it's his fault, but this special teams unit as a whole has been weak the last couple of years. It hasn't just been this year; it's been the last couple of years. So
outside of Gano. Our kick coverage and punt coverage is terrible.
Yeah, I'm
return game is terrible, and the punter is horrible. I mean, we haven't had a good punter in years.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it changes there. I
think there should be.
I wonder if there will be. Let's put it to you this way. Just a vibe I tend to pick up. But anyway, getting back to the list here. Of free agents, Marcus Johnson, receiver.
Probably
I don't know. I mean, if Colin Johnson's healthy, maybe.
Colin Johnson, yes.
You swap him out,
No.
Jared Davis, that's a guy that they wanted desperately. I would give Jared Davis another shot.
Yeah, I like Jared Davis from what I've seen so far, and they.
Yeah, I think they tried to rush him into the defense, and I question how. Comfortable.
I think those late season signings were as much for next year as they are for this year. Like Isaiah Hodgins, Davis, the dude Washington, the receiver, the former Steeler. I think that was a next year move. So I think Davis will be back.
All right, let's see. Fabian Moreau. I think you got to draft some cornerbacks here. Would you be adverse to bringing?
I'd bring him back on a really cheap salary. If he could get anything decent, I'd let him go.
Jalen Smith.
No,
go on.
Yeah. Slayton.
If it's cheap, yes, but I don't think it will be. So gone.
Yeah, I think Slayton's going to be one of the leading receivers in a weak receiver free agency market. Yeah. All right, Henry Mondo is an RFA. who I don't think they're going to tender, many of their RFAs. I think they just have maybe one or two because it's going to cost way too much to tender them.
I'm looking at the same list as you, I think, because you're reading it off as I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
What does ERFA mean?
Exclusive rights.
So that means they're
that means back. The Giants can sign them to like a cheap deal.
That's what Hodgins did. So Hodgins is coming back.
Yeah, so you figure Hodgins will be back. So the only other two UFAs are Zimenez. Would you bring Zimenez back? I think I might move on from him.
Yeah, I'd
move on. He played okay for us early on, but I'd move on.
But he kind of fell off. And then of course Julian Love, who I think they definitely bring back.
I don't know if they well, you know better than me. I don't know if they definitely bring him back. I think there's a certain market that they wouldn't exceed, but if he fits the range, I think he'll be back.
I think they want him back.
I definitely think they want him back.
Does Julian, I think Julian wants to come back, but if he hits the market, and I have a feeling he will, to test the market,
he should.
If he gets an offer from like Chicago, which is where he's from, I could see him jumping on it.
Yeah, I mean, like, what would be your max for Love on a per year basis? I say between like 8 or 9. That's like my max for him.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like if Chicago comes with 10 or 11, I let him go.
Yeah, I'm like, thanks, Julian, but
I get my comp pick and sign on.
Yeah. So I mean,
I like him, but
like
Shane said, there's a walk away price for these players.
You have to have a walk away price. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
that's business.
You can't let them hold you up.
You can't let feelings get in the way of this. You're again, this is why I'm not a player guy. I'm a team guy. Players come and go, and the Giants, this logo is forever. I've seen thousands of players, maybe thousands of players in my 40 years of watching football come and go. I always say, listen, I watched Lawrence Taylor leave, so if I can see Lawrence Taylor have to retire and not be a Giant anymore, I don't need to get attached. I also saw Eli Manning retire and Michael Strahan. I saw some of the best players ever retire and not be Giants anymore. So if I can get over them not playing for the Giants anymore, that's anybody. I can get over anybody not playing. I root for the laundry. I don't root for the player. I root for the player wearing the laundry. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Xavier McKinney, right? He's my favorite Giant. If he was playing for the Eagles, I am rooting for him. I didn't root for James Bradbury over there. Not that I disliked James Bradbury when he was here, but you go wear that Eagle, that disgusting booger green crap that they wear in Philadelphia. I ain't rooting for you. So
tell us how you really feel about the Eagles, though.
Oh God, I can't. There might be children watching. I can't really tell you what I.
All right, you brought up Xavier McKinney, which leads me to the next question I would ask you. Shane talked about potentially extending some guys who still have a little bit of time left on their rookie deals. Dexter Lawrence comes to mind. All right, so now some other guys that are coming to the end of their rookie deals: Andrew Thomas, McKinney. They're going to be eligible to be extended. Would you do those guys now? Would you wait?
I mean, I think Lawrence, they're going to, if I had to guess.
Yeah, makes sense.
The same thing I said about Jones, I think it's going to be the same thing with Lawrence. Like, yes, they extended Lawrence on the 5th-year option before the year started, but now he's far exceeded that. Like, he's worth over $20 million a year right now. Based off the market at his position, he's going to be paid as the highest paid defensive tackle when he hits free agency. So I don't know how in good faith his agent could be like, yeah, Dex, you should play on a 1-year commitment for $10 million when you could get like 70. Yeah, it's $10 million guaranteed. But if he gets hurt, like now, if he was a free agent, he'd make like 70 or 80 guaranteed. And it would be like, so like, I think they're going to have to extend Dexter Lawrence this offseason at some point, if I had to guess. Yeah. Andrew Thomas, I think they could wait a year.
Yeah,
because they could give him a 5th-year option. So McKinney doesn't have that option because he's a second rounder. So maybe you look at doing something with him too.
Yeah, I think they're going to extend Dex, and I think they'll probably wait 1 more year on Thomas before they extend him.
And if I'm them, I wait on McKinney because McKinney's spoke about he's going to be around this offseason, continuing rehabbing that hand. So that just tells you that hand wasn't in good shape. Well, he had to wear a splint, so it couldn't have been 100%. So I would wait to see how that hand comes through with additional rehab and stuff. His whole thing was I think the grip strength, because I don't know if you saw the article. I know Steve Serby had an article with the actual X-rays and everything. That hand was really messed up.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
I mean, that was bad.
Yeah.
So and You want your guy to be, because basically he's got to tackle now with one hand. I mean, so if I'm the Giants, I wait on him. I'd probably wait on Andrew Thomas, but I'll tell you what, if Andrew Thomas plays well again next year, midway through, I'd look to get him done.
I would extend him now if I could.
Because their value, the cap goes up, which means their contracts go up. So if you get them now,
and that's the other thing you mentioned, the cap. The Amazon money, I believe, is going to kick in not this year. I think it kicks in next year. So the cap this year per over the cap is projected at 225. In 2024, it's going to jump up to 256. Wow. And then it's going to jump. And then in 2025, it jumps up to 282. And then projected for 2026, we're looking at over 308 million.
So
we're talking huge jumps because now the TV money's kicking in.
Yeah. So
there's going to be plenty of time, and there's only so much you can do, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, they'll get it done. I mean, as long as these guys continue playing at a high enough level, and then, of course, you're going to have new guys coming in. And the rule, for those who don't know, is you can renegotiate draft picks after 3 years and on their rookie deals. You have to wait at least 3 years.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are like, well, what about Kayvon or Evan Neal or, this guy, got to wait 3 years. Yeah. Can't just jump right in there.
Yeah,
so
the reason why I don't think they'll extend Thomas now is because I don't think they're going to want, I could be wrong, they might, but I don't think they're going to want Thomas and Dexter Lawrence on the same exact cycle. Like if they're going to extend two supremely high-priced players, they'd probably rather them be on a separate year apart from one another. Like that's why I think they'll probably wait a year on Thomas. Yeah, I think they'll wait a year on Thomas.
Which would absolutely make sense. All right, now, speaking of cap and money, let's take a look at the salary cap for a second. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but every year what I do is I take a look at what I call the salary cap health of the Giants. In other words, how many contracts do they have that are 10 million and above? So this year they're in pretty decent shape. Okay. Andrew Thomas at 10.2. He's number 5. Dexter Lawrence at 12.407. I think they're going to lower that number. Adoree Jackson is at 19, his cap number. Then you've got Golladay. That contract's going to get trimmed. And then Leonard, 32.26.
That's the big one. That's the one
that one's got to get knocked down.
Maybe they could stretch out his contract and get that.
I think an extension. Is coming for him.
Well, Leonard wants to be here, so I think that they'll be able to work with him.
Do you think he's a little bit older now? Do you think it's like possible because his original contract was 3 years 60? It was $21 million a year. It was 3 years 63 million. You think they could get him for say 3 for 54? I know the market's gone up, but he's older.
Well, let me ask you this. Before we talk about money. He had some injury issues last year, which he powered through, and again this year.
The next,
he's up there in age. I think that he just finished his 9th season.
Yeah.
How much do you want?
So maybe you get him for 3 for 50. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you could get him,
you don't want to spend a ton of money on him, but if you can get that number down, ideally.
Well, yeah, because if it's a 3-year extension, if you owe him 32 and you could get it down to like $20 million a year on average. If you could get him for like a $15 million extension, so.
Right.
That's what I think they're looking at. Maybe a contract you could get out after the 3rd year instead of the 4th. You could do that. You could give yourself $10 to $12 more million on this year's cap space.
Absolutely. Now, what would you do with Adoree Jackson's contract?
I would consider extending him if he was willing to give.
At 19.076. He's got an $11 million base salary. He's got a roster bonus coming in per game of $1 million, which is kind of interesting. Actually, let me pull up the whole deal here. Let me take a look at this. Yeah, he's got per game roster bonuses of $1 million. By the way, they're going to get a cap credit on him for the games he missed this past year. So that's why when you guys ask me about how much cap space are they going to have if they do this, and this, the offseason accounting has to be done. So there's going to be a cap credit there for sure. Now, Adoree also has $2 million guaranteed as of March 20th. $2 million of his base salary becomes guaranteed. Do you look to lower that number, knowing that he has a voidable year in 2024?
If it was me, I think I would just let him play out the year and then let him go after that. If it was me, knowing that we're going to have to draft a cornerback very early in this year's draft or next year's draft. Because you got to prioritize. Like, you have to. He's a guy that kind of gets hurt. He's going to be like 27, 28 by the time he's a free agent after this next contract. I think I'd let him walk after this year. I think I'd let him play out the year. I wouldn't touch his contract. And then I might draft his replacement in the first round this year if I like a cornerback. So I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
So again, the cap health of the Giants right now, I look at the top 5, then I go to the top. It's actually in decent shape. The Golladay contract, they're going to get rid of that one. Although that one's going to cost them a lot. They're going to have to eat $14.7 million.
You think they'll cut them post June 1, so they split it up?
Well, that would make more sense to do, because then the savings is 13.5 versus what would it be pre-June? It would be 6.7 pre-June. So the drawback is if you cut them post,
move it into next season, right?
Right. You're going to have $7.9 million in dead money this year, and then the rest of it gets dumped into the following year. And I found this out. I didn't realize this, but Kenny Golladay, his roster bonus that he's due is guaranteed. So regardless of what they do, he's going to get $4.5 million from the Giants as of March 19th. That is guaranteed. So that's what I was talking about earlier with fully guaranteed versus guaranteed at signing. Man, what a bad contract that is horrible.
Well, the problem with that whole offseason, and listen, we were all excited as fans when they did it, because we were finally trying to win, but it compounded. It made contracts that were once not bad horrible, because you had to backload everything. You had to backload Bradbury's contract. You had to backload Martinez's contract. You had to backload Logan Ryan's contract. Like, all the contracts had to be backloaded just to make room for Kenny Golladay and Adoree Jackson. And you even backloaded those contracts. So it just made the cap situation so bad. Well, the
Giants,
Dave was a good scout, but not good with the cap.
No, I mean, Gettleman, he came up with some good draft picks for them. Absolutely. But free agency was a problem for him.
Yeah,
with a couple of exceptions, Gano comes to mind,
right?
And the
your boy Nick Gates comes to mind. Nick Gates
comes to mind, but the salary cap management, wow,
it was rough.
It was rough, and it was like I kept saying when they were going through free agency, I said, "What are they doing? They're just printing money." That's what it seemed like. They were stretching out all these contracts, and I kept saying to somebody, I said, the Giants are going to be in cap hell in 2022 if they keep doing this.
Yeah, that's where we were.
But credit to Shane, he cleaned it up fast, because
yes, he did.
This year,
and
when
you have to touch Holiday's contract.
Yeah, like this year, we're gonna have at least $70 million, I think, after draft expenses, especially if they could stretch out the Leo, and then you'll use that to keep Jones and do what you got to do. But then the following year, I mean, it's so clear. Like, I looked at it, we got like $200 million right now in cap space. Yeah. Now that's before Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and all that. But we have a very healthy cap situation now.
Yes, much better than this past year.
Joe Schoen did a very good job with that.
Oh, and the fact that he didn't touch Galladay's contract and make more money.
No.
Yeah.
It's amazing what he did walking the tightrope with the finances he had. Just being able to fill the team. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, and I usually am, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, were we in such cap hell last year that we couldn't even field a full team? Yep. Were we like a roster spot short? We could not pay all the players?
At the end of the year. And I went and I looked that up. As a matter of fact, I think I tweeted that.
Yeah.
And it went viral, that tweet, because I went and I looked it up. And because I know what the difference is, to bring up a player from the practice squad. They had to go with 51 players at one point because they did not have enough money.
Right.
And I've never seen that before.
That's how bad. That's how bad it was. What Shane and Brandon Brown did this year, unbelievable. I mean, truly remarkable. That's why you just looking at what they were brought into, the situation, and they're brought in late. They're brought in January. So again, it's not like they were with the Bills and Brandon Brown's with the Eagles, and they're sitting there going, all right, let's look at what the Giants need. Right, they came in here and said, there you go. Here, you got no cap space. These are your players. Do something with it. And not only were they able to, like you said, not touch Kenny Galladay's contract, not backload other bad contracts to make
they have a couple million to carry over.
They got to the playoffs and won a playoff game.
Yeah.
So
they have some money to carry over. And like I said, there's going to be some credits they're going to get from guys that didn't hit incentives or whatnot. So not bad, all things considered. But this year, when I say next year, obviously the league year starts on March 15th. So it's technically next year going to be a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
And the possibilities are going to be endless. So,
and you got 2 draft picks. You got 2 comp picks too. Factor that in.
That's coming too. Absolutely.
With Evan Ingram.
All right, guys, I got to take my last commercial break. When we come back, if you guys have questions, I know we haven't gotten to your questions in the chat room. Post your questions. We'll get to them. We'll be right back after this. Hey, Giant fans, playing daily fantasy based on player projections has never been easier when you visit prizepicks.com. Pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go on to score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you will win up to 25 times the amount of your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks is currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada, and they offer projections on every sport. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and Prize Picks offers safe and fast withdrawals. Download the Prize Picks app today or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. Don't forget to enter that promo code Locked On at sign up. Hey, Giant fans, in case you didn't know, I'm on social media. You probably know that I'm on Twitter. My handle is at Patricia_Traina, Traina. But I'm also on Instagram. You can check me out at Patty Traina, PATTI, And the Locked On Giants podcast also has a brand new Instagram account. That's Locked On Giants, at Locked On Giants. We're posting pictures, quotes, stats, news bits, video clips, audio clips, all kinds of cool things. You'll want to check that out. Give us a like and a follow, not just here on the YouTube page, but also follow us on Instagram. Again, the Locked On Giants account is at Locked On Giants. And my overall football account that I use is at Patty, PATTI, TRAINA. Please give me a follow. And thank you so much for your support of the Locked On Giants podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants Live, Entertainah and Dog. And we are going to take some of your questions now. We haven't, and I apologize. We had so much to talk about moving forward and stuff. And so we had to get to that stuff. So hopefully you're enjoying the Locked On Giants live stream. And let's start getting some of your questions in, shall we? All right. Amazing Guy wants to know, should the Giants bring in Joe Philbin to help with the O-line? They have Tony Sperano and Bobby Johnson, so I don't know if they need another guy at this point. You don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, I would think.
That ruined Washington when Joe Gibbs came back. They had like 40 coaches. And I think we had too many coaches when Joe Judge was here too.
Yeah.
So you get too many guys, chirping in somebody's ear, hey, do it this way, it can lead to confusion, I think. There's going to be a lot of miscommunication when you have so many, like I said, too many cooks spoil the pot. So
yeah,
I don't know how many. I don't think it's the fact that these guys aren't good coaches. I just think that the offensive line just doesn't have talent in the interior part of it.
How many offensive line coaches did they have last year? They had Rob Sale. I think Pat Flaherty helped out. Wasn't there another guy? I think there was another guy. They had 3 last year. Yeah. And how did that work out?
Right. And they had Colombo the year before, and he got fired in the middle of the year.
Yeah, and then Joe Judge was getting involved. So, I would just stick with Bobby Johnson and Sperano. No reason to bring in another guy, I think, at this point. So, all right, Sarkhan asked, what position is most important to draft in round 1? Best player available.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go in and say, I got to have a receiver in round 1 and a center in round 2. Right. You start doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a little
not the way to go.
At least my philosophy, what I think is when you're picking really early in the draft, you measure need a little bit more. Like you're like, because when you're picking 4th, 5th, what we've been accustomed to, all the players up there are elite players.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah,
they're elite talents.
Yeah. So if your biggest need is an elite tackle, and maybe you have the edge rusher like slightly above him, you go with the tackle. But when you're picking 25 take the best. Take the best player on your board at a need on your football team.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you don't need a quarterback, but he's the best player on your board, you don't take a quarterback. But
right.
you analyze going in, you say, okay, there's a lot of really important positions we have needs at. We need a corner, we need a linebacker, we need a center, and we need a wide receiver.
Yeah.
You look at those 4 needs, you say, okay, this player is much higher on my board than the other position. I'm taking the center because he's 10 spots higher than anyone else. So I think you go BPA. You go BPA, especially as you get later into the first round.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, and you just got to see how it stacks up. And then you also want to see how free agency plays out too, I think. So,
yeah,
take that into consideration. All right, Jordan Samedi, any theories on the Giants' water going out on the day of the Eagles game? Jordan, not for nothing, but that was much ado about nothing, that story. What happened was, and what I was told is that the Giants were in meetings at the time when the pipe burst, and they fixed the pipe. They got the water back up and running fairly quickly. So worst case, I think some people weren't able to take morning showers and they had to wait. So they had to wait a couple of hours. It wasn't the end of the world.
I don't think that had anything to do with them pounding us into the turf.
I'm going to blame it on that, BadDog. I'm blaming it on that.
Okay. For once, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to say they were better by a lot. That makes my stomach turn to say that, but that's what happened.
By the way, BadDog, I was thinking of you throughout that game. I said, "Oh my God, I hope he's not headed for the bridge." It was
just so I wasn't mad. It was just that was a disappointing game because it was such a fun season, and we had high hopes. We had high hopes going into that game. We were playing our best football. They had kind of fallen off. We really felt like, at least I really felt like we had an opportunity to win, and just there was a couple plays at the beginning of that game, the soft zone on 3rd and 3 where, you're playing 8 yards off A.J. Brown. I'm like, I don't understand what the conservative nature is. The offense looked conservative. They almost looked overwhelmed. And I'm like, where's the go for broke attitude against this team? And then, of course, the 4th down, I didn't quite understand that. We had 3rd and 3. If you're going to go for it on 4th down, run on 3rd and 3. Daniel Jones gets sacked. Okay, well, that sucks. Punt. Instead, they go for it in 4th and 8. Then the Eagles have really good field position. They go down and score again, and that was it. If we were going to win, we had to get off to a good start. We discussed that last week. We got off to a terrible start. They got off to a good start. Good night, Irene. And we were never in.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I didn't understand that. I mean, I kind of did, but
it's hard for me to like. It's hard for me to pin it on any one individual because it didn't matter who the coach was for that game. We were going to get killed because
we got out talented.
We got destroyed in the trenches, destroyed. Yeah. But I will say, and I love Dable, he did not have his best game.
No. And that's why you get in the postseason. You learn. He learns from that, and he'll be better next time. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Scott Young asks, I heard on Fan today they mentioned the Giants have the 3rd toughest schedule for next season. How is that determined? It's called strength of schedule. So what basically they do is they add up what all the opponents did and they get a cumulative 1-loss record. And then they what's the percentage, of games won. So that's how I think they determine that.
And I'm going to tell you why that.
Because we're playing the AFC East, which was a great division, and we're playing the NFC West.
Our division.
Yeah.
Right.
Who this year beat up on a softer schedule.
And the AFC East was very good. Mm-hmm. And the NFC West was very good. And we play all those divisions. And then we get the Packers because they were 3rd place in the AFC North. We get the Rams, who had an off year. Oh, no, it's because we play the NFC West. Who's the team in this South?
We play the Panthers,
Saints.
I think.
Don't we get
Saints? That's right, yes. So
So
that's like the one bad team that we have.
Our schedule could go either way, though. It might not be as hard as we think. You don't know.
You never know. Look at last year. We're like, oh, Detroit, that's a win.
Yeah, like the Cardinals could go.
Seattle, that's a win. Nope.
If we play the Cardinals the first 8 weeks, they're not going to have Kyler Murray probably.
Right.
You don't know what the Rams are going to look like.
By that because teams are going to improve. They're going to change. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
The schedule is probably one of the most overrated, quote unquote.
Seattle, year league, you don't know either. Like guys can get hurt. You're playing the Rams. Okay, well, if Matt Stafford gets hurt, I mean, look at what they did. They did nothing, right? So you never know. San Francisco is going to be tough. I could be the quarterback for San Francisco, and they would be a tough team.
That team's loaded. By the way, I hope they kill the Eagles.
Like, no matter what, our schedule is going to be ranked as one of the toughest going into next year.
Because we play in the NFC Beast.
The Eagles,
right,
the Eagles are, what, 14-3, and the
Cowboys were, what, 12-5?
Or maybe even 13-4. I think they were 12-5. So, like, right there, I mean, that's 26-8 combined.
Yeah.
So that alone, we're going to have one of the toughest schedules.
Yeah. But again, it's an overrated stat because teams aren't the same from year to year. Right. So let's just see how it comes.
You just have to look at the Rams. They won a Super Bowl, and then they were terrible.
Right.
So.
All right. David Healy wants to know, what did the Giants do if Wink or Kafka leaves? Who do we get to replace them? If Wink leaves, I'm wondering if maybe they try and promote Drew Wilkins, although I wonder if Drew would follow Wink wherever he would go.
I don't think Wink's going to leave. I'm not worried about it.
I don't think he's going to leave either. But, one of the I would say either Drew Wilkins or maybe Jerome Henderson might get the bump up.
Henderson, they seem to like.
Leaves, here's an interesting thing. For those of you who watched the show after the Eagles debacle, I had David Turner, a former NFL scout who used to work for the Giants, on the program. He came up with an interesting suggestion if Kafka leaves. Okay. And that is, let Dable call the plays for a year. Mm-hmm. Appoint Shea Tierney as your offensive coordinator, but have him kind of serve as a consultant type of role. Mm-hmm. And if with Davis Webb apparently looking to transition to coaching, name Davis Webb your quarterback's coach, and just kind of give everybody a year to get settled. Let Dable call the plays for a year, and then reevaluate where you're at after that.
That's exactly what I think they would do.
Yeah,
I think that exact scenario. I think they'd appoint Shea Tierney to be the OC, but I think David would call the plays. That's exactly what I think they would do. If they,
I can tell you who it won't be. It will not be Dr. Garrett. I can tell you that. It will not be Dr. Garrett. He will not be back.
Because you want to keep things for Daniel Jones as consistent as you possibly
can.
Right,
exactly.
So that's what I think. I don't think we're going to lose Kafka either. I don't think he's going to get a job. Yeah.
Maybe next year you lose Kafka. But I don't think this year. I just don't think he has enough experience. I think he did a fantastic job with what he had to work with. Especially towards the end of the year, you could see this offense is getting better, but I just don't think he has the experience yet. I think next year if we improve again, there's a good possibility that we lose.
I totally agree. All right, Davey Anonymous asked about Bobby Johnson. He says, I think part of Evan Neal's development was on him. He seems inflexible. What do you think? Davey, I don't think he was inflexible. I think, and I'm going to say this until probably I'm blue in the face. I know I've said this before. Evan Neal was not the same after that injury, that knee injury. You could see it in his technique. There were times when he was bending at the waist instead of at the knees. And I question
his knees were inflexible. That was the problem.
Yeah, I think that was the problem. And I think he was banged up and to the point where, he had to compensate. So I don't know if it was necessarily Bobby Johnson's doing or anybody's specific doing. I think it was the injury, because Evan Neal, I think, was fun. And I did a breakdown on this. I don't remember which article for Giants Country, but I looked at Evan Neal's production before the knee injury and after. And most of the pressures and issues he started having came after he came back from that knee injury. So I know he was healthy enough to play and everything, but nobody's ever.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Thomas' rookie year dealt with a foot injury that whole year, and he was, there was questions about, oh God, did we miss on him again? And, did we miss there too? But look what he's turned into. And I'm not saying Evan Neal is going to be as good as Andrew Thomas, but I think he's going to be a staple here for a long time. I'm certainly not going to give up on him right away because, with being healthy and having getting acclimated to the NFL and the speed and the techniques of these pass rushers and the different defensive schemes and pass rushes and blitzes that they throw at these guys, it's way more complex than college. And these guys are, more athletic, more physical, more gifted, quicker, everything that you want. So you can look at as much film as you want, but till you're actually in the trenches and you're getting a glimpse of how fast this game moves, I think that goes a long way. So I think his experience will help him. It's tough for a rookie to make that adjustment.
I'm not worried about Neal.
I'm not either.
Now, maybe he won't be elite. Hopefully he will be, but I think he's going to at least be good. And I think there's the injury for sure that has to be factored in terms of his overall evaluation, because he was starting to play better. Then he got hurt and he didn't look quite the same after he came back. The other thing I think that needs to be factored in is not just Daniel Jones. Every member of that offensive line was playing in a new offensive system, along with the quarterback. Like Daniel Jones, we all know a quarterback is going to struggle his first year trying to pick up an offense. That affects offensive line play as well, especially a rookie that was not playing right tackle the year before at the collegiate level. So he's shifting to the other side. He's playing with a quarterback that it's his first year from within that system, along with everybody else in that offense.
Right, and how many guards did he play with?
I mean, some time to grow.
How many different combinations of linemen did we have playing with him? Because we had a bunch of injuries on the line all over the place.
You know,
that doesn't help either. When you're going to want him to have a solid right guard the whole time, so they can work off one another and build chemistry. But if you constantly are moving pieces in and out of there because of injury or whatever, it's tough to these guys got to work together. They got to become a cohesive unit, which is why you want to draft a line and build it together. That's because when you have that, and those guys can play off one another, and they're used to everybody else, and they know the strengths and weaknesses, and they can help each other out. It goes a long way. So I'm not worried about Evan Neal. I think he'll be fine.
Spoiler alert, guys. I'm waiting to hear back, but I may have Eli Manning. I might have Eli Manning on the program next week. One of the questions, if I do get him. Yes, Chris is like, Eli? Yes, Chris, that Eli. If I do have him on the program, one of the questions I want to ask, because Eli went through that as well with the Giants. Remember, when Gilbride retired, they switched to a totally different system. Yeah. So I want to get his take on that and just, what kind of adjustments, because it's not just a matter of,
That's a great question.
I think, and Eli can certainly share his experience. It's a, different system than what Daniel had to learn, but it's a valid question for a quarterback. And, hopefully, like I said, I think I have Eli. I think he's going to be on Monday. I'm not sure. So we would tape Monday for Tuesday. So I'll find out. I mean, I know I've got a request and I just got to see if I got approved for it. So, but I will ask that question of Eli. So, all right. Thigh 66 asks, any buzz in the building regarding uniform changes? Not that I've heard. I don't know if they're thinking that far ahead. I mean, were they planned for next year? Because I think a lot of it also depends on when games are scheduled.
I'm trying to remember when these came out. I feel like
they came out before. They came out. I want to say
they came out after we took Thibodeau, so it was after the draft.
It was in the spring, so it might be a little too early right now.
Yeah. So honestly, I think these should be the main jersey. I love these jerseys.
Yeah.
I love them. So I would like them to go to
I love the 80s uniforms. I mean, I grew up on the 80s stuff.
Yeah, same here.
I'd be happy.
They need to bring that. They need to bring the helmet back.
Doug, I still can't believe that you I mean, you don't look that old. And it's like I'm sitting here, I'm like,
I know, I'm almost 50, so yeah.
Oh wow. So you're not that much younger than I am.
No, I'm up there, Patty. I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
Wow. Okay.
I'm older than Tom Brady.
I thought you were younger. So you're my generation.
But yeah, I remember when they drafted Carl Banks. So that's how far back.
Yeah. See, so you could be my little brother. You're about the age of my brother. So.
Right. But I'm a Giants fan, so I'm
right. So Chris is the baby. Taina's
the baby. Chris is.
One thing I constantly hear that people complain about with this uniform is the helmet shade doesn't match it, but that doesn't bother me.
Nah.
I like the darker blue helmet shade.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wish they would put this back on the side of the.
That would be great. With you. I missed that as well. Yeah, definitely. All right. Mark B asks, is OBJ a realistic option at this point? Probably not. I just don't see it. I mean, the guy is coming off 2 ACLs. He's on the wrong side of 30.
It's a distraction too.
He could be. Yeah, I just don't see it. I know there are fans out there that want to see the reunion. And if Odell wants a ton of money, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you otherwise. Those of you who want to see it happen.
He's going to Philly. Everybody's
going to Philly, right, Doc?
Everybody's going to Philly.
I don't think Odell's coming here. I haven't thought it for a while.
So.
Especially, I'm not going to get into it because I know a lot of people defend Odell no matter what. But
yeah,
I don't. I'd be very surprised if the Giants bring Odell back. At least this year, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting one. Do you hate Sirianni when he showboated every touchdown? Look, I mean, how many times has Dable pumped his fist when the Giants did something good? I mean, that's
listen. I hate
Patty.
Sirianni Pizza Hut. Okay,
you're right, Patty. But I hated his guts.
You hate him because they won.
No, but I said it to Bad Dog as soon as they showed him on the screen after they scored that time. I'm like, that son of a bitch. Like,
yeah. He eats pizza. Listen, he eats Pizza Hut pizza, and he's Italian. Okay, that's all you need to know about the guy. You don't need another reason to hate him. That's the reason you hate him. He eats Pizza Hut, and he's Italian. You don't do that.
No,
you don't do it. He probably got pineapple on it too. Don't do that either.
No. All kidding aside, if that was Dable, I'd be pumped up. Of
course.
But because he's the Eagles head coach,
yeah.
Yeah, we were blowing the Eagles out. I want Dable to showboat. Are you kidding me? I'm like, rub it in, Dable. It's just when it's happening to you, you're like, oh, I'd like to punch him right in the head. I'd like to take that pizza and mash right in his face.
Sirianni thought he was in
You're
WWF.
brutal, man. You are brutal, dog.
I don't like the Eagles, Patty. I
know that. I learned that about you.
Let's go 49ers! Come on, Brock. Yeah, do that Tom Brady thing where, nobody expects you to do anything and you win a Super Bowl. Do it.
I think the Niners are going to beat them. I really do.
By the way, I'm rooting for the 49ers, too. The Eagles, they can't get in. I'm sorry. They cannot get in.
I can't do it. Come on, 49ers.
By the way, how crazy is this? In the last 4 championships, combined AFC and NFC, Chiefs have been to all 4. The Niners have been to 3.
Wild.
And what's the thing they have in common? Both of them have an offensive genius as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams are built completely differently. The Chiefs have the elite quarterback. The Niners have the elite roster with the quarterback who's kind of carried based off of the offensive play caller and all the surrounding parts. But yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, it's kind of the same trend with the Giants. The offensive coach, both of them have that really smart offensive coach with Andy Reid and Shanahan. But yeah, Niners have been 3 out of the last 4. You don't even realize that. But they've
that's
been
a good point.
Yeah,
that's a real good point. All right, Peter Cerdo. Any chance Giants drop down by trading Daniel Jones? Nope. Don't see it happening.
We're not
what are you going to replace him with?
We're not trading Daniel Jones.
Why would you want to trade Daniel Jones? I don't understand the thinking behind that. I mean, and then who do you replace him with? If you're going to propose a trade, there's 2 sides to the trade. There's trade this guy, but replace him with this guy. I mean, you're going to go with Tyrod Taylor? I mean, no disrespect to Tyrod Taylor, but
Tyrod Taylor got hurt. How many times he went in there in the end?
Yeah, I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you would even matter. Why would you even go there?
Yeah.
I really
don't.
Jones
is coming back here.
I think so too.
Unless Washington says, "Hey, here's 4 years, 100."
He's not even getting to Washington. We're going to franchise tag him if we don't get a deal done.
He's not going anywhere.
No,
he's not
I don't
going
think
anywhere.
so either.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, Papa Guzzo wants to know: will the Giants get a receiver or linebacker in free agency? Both? Well, actually, no. Actually, let me take that back. The free agent receiver class right now is.
They'll sign a free agent wide receiver, though. They have to. They're going to be a cheap
like
guy.
A third or, a cheap option. If you're talking about a number 1, I don't see that.
I think it's going to be a linebacker.
I could see.
I think their biggest free agent signing is going to be a linebacker because linebackers are more affordable.
What about Roquan Smith? Is he too much?
Didn't he sign already? Did
he? I don't know if he signed.
I thought he signed an extension. Okay. I could be wrong.
I want the dude from Buffalo. Everybody's been talking about him.
Who's this?
That's what I want.
Edmonds, right?
Yeah,
Tremaine Edmonds. Yeah,
that's what I want.
Yeah. So I mean, I would keep an eye on that unless Buffalo, franchises him or gets him done, early. But one more from Papa Guzzo. How many draft picks do we have? 9 or 11? Right now, officially they have 9, but they're going to get 2 comp picks. It looks like
and you just don't know where those comp picks are at the moment.
Right.
That's
5th and 7th is the projection, but it's not official.
We will have 11 when we get to the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, not bad. Not a bad haul to be honest with you. I mean to have that. But all right. Fabian asks, what do you think of the 3rd place schedule? Fabian, it actually depends on when the Giants see certain teams. So, for example, if they see Arizona early in the year, like Chris was saying earlier, they're probably not going to have Kyler Murray. So,
yeah, and you kind of got to see like a lot of these teams might have rookie quarterbacks. Like, let's see what they do this offseason. Their roster might look completely different.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers might be on the Jets. And then we got to play the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. We don't have to play the Packers with Aaron Rodgers.
Like the Jets, we don't know who their quarterback's going to be. The Dolphins, we don't know. Tua's had concussion problems.
Tua's been injured, so he might not play.
Yeah. So I mean, it's you can look the opponents today.
Who knows what Seattle's going to do too? Are they going to hold on to Geno Smith?
Mac Jones struggled this year.
Well, Joe Judge is over there, so
By the way,
Joe Judge with another quarterback named Jones.
Patricia might not come back though.
Who?
Matt Patricia. I just saw something flashed on my phone during a commercial break that Matt Patricia's may not be back with the Patriots.
I also saw that Mac Jones came out and destroyed Joe Judge today.
Oh, did he? What did he say?
Destroyed him.
What did he say?
Oh, I got to do a video on that. Everybody loves my Joe Judge videos. I have to do one.
I'll find it. I mean, it was only one quote. Here it is.
That doesn't matter. That's all I need to make a 10-minute video.
Here, this is what Mac Jones had to say about Joe Judge today. He said, details emerge about the Patriots' disastrous 2022 season and Mac Jones' relationship with coaches, including quarterback coach Joe Judge. Mac didn't like him at all, per a source. Bill Belichick would blast Joe Judge in practice. And then there's a couple of other quotes that came out of it as well, where he went into further detail. But so
my guy Joe. Oh God, the rants I had about Joe Judge last year, some of my best ever.
Wow.
Some of the things that I came up with for Joe Judge, when I did the mock press conference, I watched that back, and I don't usually make myself laugh, but I laughed at a couple of things with that, and I had a couple of good. I remember Joe Judge on the one that everybody loved was the beginning of the year when he threw the challenge flag, and it drove me crazy on the scoring play, which all scoring plays are reviewed. So why are you throwing it? I just remember screaming into the camera, "You run laps, Joe! You run laps!" People loved that. That one, and he wanted to swim laps in the Hudson River with cement shoes. That was the other one. People loved that stuff.
Oh, I got to tune into your channel.
Oh, I went off on Joe Judge a lot last year.
I would be rolling on the floor laughing.
People, it's funny, Patty, because part of my charm is when I get really mad and I can
see that.
Okay, and I did it a lot last year, and the reason being is this: we were 6-10 and 20, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but as bad as we were competing for the division. The team seemed like it had improved. We dealt with a lot of injuries. Barkley was out the entire year, and we were able to do this. We won on the road in Seattle. Daniel Jones battled injury, all this stuff. And at the end of the day, we still had gotten better. And I'm thinking, here we go in 2021. I predicted us to win 10 games. We went out and we got Kenny Golladay. We got Daniel Jones, the number one receiver. We signed Adoree Jackson. We did all these moves. And I'm thinking, we're going to get better. And we didn't. And we got a lot worse. So I had high expectations. And then when he threw that challenge flag right away, that was like, nope, I don't, because I loved Joe Judge's first year. We all loved him. And then a snap of a finger, the complete opposite. I'm like, nope, not the guy. And I was very venomous towards Mr. Judge. I have all kinds of the clown show thing. I laughed because he said clown show, and then when he had that 11-minute tirade, and I go, he watched my videos because I said the Giants are a clown show. He's a clown show. He's the head clown, and he's like, we're not some clown show organization. I go, yeah, you watched, Joe. I knew you did.
Well, the thing with Judge, why I think so many fans turned on him as quickly as they did, was this is a guy that preached attention to detail. He preached being strong mentally, so on and so forth, and a hard-nosed football team. He's throwing, like BadDog said, he's throwing challenge flags when he self-admittedly admitted that he knew he couldn't throw the flag and he took an unnecessary penalty.
Yeah.
The guy, you think back.
Bad usage of timeouts. The headsets, Chris, the headsets.
The headsets. Happened 4 times.
Yeah, and I said, if you had that much attention to detail the first time that happens, you have a backup plan.
Yeah, have flashcards. After the first 2 times, okay.
Yeah.
I went in on him. As a matter of fact, I think the first video that people see on my page is me with the paper bag over my head. Going off on Joe Judge. And it's funny. Wow. I was just so – last year had to be the worst year as a Giants fan that I've, in my 40 years of watching the Giants or whatever. It was tough. That was a tough year last
year. It was, and
that's why this year we deserved it as Giants fans. Dealing with that last year, we deserved this year.
You don't know the half of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Another one that people liked was I said we execution.
It was rough.
We execution fundamentally, and fundamentally we execution. I remember doing that too in my mock press.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Poor Joe.
All right. A lighter question here. James Vegas wants to know about the MetLife food. You know what, James? I've only had the press box food recently. Years ago, I would sometimes go downstairs and I would get something because the press box food is free. And, obviously if I went down to the concourse, I'd have to pay for it, which, not a big deal. If I wanted something, obviously I would do it. But look, I mean, my philosophy is if I'm invited to somebody's house and they serve food, I'm not going to complain about it. It might not be what I would serve. It might not be prepared the way I would prepare it.
You also have to pay $14 for a beer.
Yeah. I know you would hate the food because halftime free. All right, let me.
Oh, I've been there, Patty. It's the nachos. I'm like, great. Cardboard with cheese whiz. Fantastic.
The media spread. And again, I'm not nitpicking on it. All right. So they do have an omelet station. That is worth the wait.
Oh, I'm sure that is.
So you could have like a regular omelet or you could have an egg white omelet and you can have, whatever you want in it.
That's right up my alley.
Because there were so many 1 o'clock games, you had your standard breakfast fare. So you had powdered eggs that were mixed up, for scrambled eggs, sausage, bacon. Then there were an assortment of breads like bagels and croissants. There was fresh fruit. So the breakfast, you couldn't go wrong with the omelet. I tried to go omelet whenever I possibly could, even though the line would be out the door. Halftime, this is where I guarantee you wouldn't like this. Usually it was something fried. So it was either like fried chicken fingers with French fries and onion rings or, just some kind of finger food.
Right.
And
my son would like.
And then they had the big cookies, I guess the cookies they sold on the concourse. There would be like a cheese platter. There would be, what else? They'd have more fruit.
Medium sodas.
Actually, small cups. They were small cups. They weren't even the medium cups. The Dunkin' Donuts coffee, medium sodas, which, by the way, Dunkin' Donuts coffee is good. I've been having that lately, and I'm not a coffee fan. So it's been good. So and then if it was a later game, like a night game, you obviously instead of getting breakfast, you would get like, chicken parm or maybe meatballs and spaghetti or something like that. So,
here's my outlook on the field at MetLife. I don't think it's very good. And I don't think all stadium food is bad, by the way. I think Citi Field, the Met Stadium is great, their food. So I think it's like at best like a 4 out of 10 for like stadium food. Like there's not a lot, like it's very repetitive. But if you're going to a football game, you eat before you go in. You eat,
right?
You tailgate. That's right. Like that's where you get. That's where you're supposed to. You eat before you go in.
Steaks and all that good stuff.
That's what I tried to do. A lot of times, for the morning games, I would get up and I would eat before I went in because, unless I was really in the mood for an omelet, then I would say, okay, I'll just have like a glass of juice and just to hold me because I can't function. I got to have something when I wake up
of course,
to stabilize your blood sugar and. So the omelets were good and they were filling, so you get a nice egg white omelet with for me, I always got tomato, ham, a little bit of cheese. And sometimes every once in a while I would mix in a little spinach here and there. How's that for a healthy?
I always put my spinach, green peppers.
Yep. Well, I don't like peppers, so I didn't put peppers in. Sometimes I'd throw some onions. So I would go for all the the only vegetable I didn't go for was peppers because I hate peppers.
Yeah,
would not have those, but yeah, again, I know some members of the media, criticize the food that we're given. That's not how I was kind of brought up. It was like, if somebody's giving you food, you might not like it, but don't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, maybe it's
you
free.
Don't like it, don't eat it. It's that
right,
simple.
Exactly.
The Giants during the week, they give us wonderful sandwiches. They make the sandwiches in the cafeteria. And some of them are really good. We're talking artesian sandwiches, which are really good. And then you get chips or you get like a cucumber tomato salad or, a pasta salad or something like that. And then on the Fridays, they serve pizza from a pizzeria, an Italian pizzeria.
You can tell we're all Italian because inevitably this stream always goes to food. Always. All the time.
Somebody asks.
I know. I'm just saying we always end up talking about food.
I know, and I got to be careful because I didn't have much all I had for dinner was soup tonight, and I don't want to get too hungry.
Yeah,
because I'm on my training schedule now, trying to tighten things up with the weight and everything. So
well, summer's coming, so that's
exactly.
Gotta get ready.
All right, let's see if we have any other questions that I missed because I'm kind of behind here. I'm behind by about 10 minutes here, so I'm just going through these questions.
Papa Guzzo says, I'm getting hungry now. My wife needs to cook me some pasta. See?
There you go.
It's Italian.
Oh,
I bet your dad has a beard right now, Chris.
I got to
just sitting in the chat for 2 hours, he grew a beard. I guarantee it. Can I tell you? I love your dad, Chris. He's the man.
Speaking of pasta, I got to give a shout out to Paul Dottino on this. He turned me on to a pasta that he buys at his store. And now I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's so good. It's actually used by caterers. It's an authentic Italian pasta.
Well, he's Italian. He good. Paul Dottino. I mean, that's
and he said to me, he said, you got to try this pasta. He says you will never buy store-bought pasta again. So he got me a bag and I tried it and he said, follow the directions exactly, so it said salt the water, which I never do. I don't throw extra salt into it. So I made the pasta. And if I tell you, it was good. It was the best pasta I ever had.
Really?
And I'm like, oh, it's amazing. I gotta find out what the name is because I forgot what it is. I made it. My husband is like, I can't tell the difference. I said, oh, I can.
Yeah.
I can't explain what the difference is, but you could tell the difference in the taste. It was amazing.
See, there's a couple guys in here. Like Paul Soltero says, Italian stress no food. Nah, he gets it. He's Italian. Jordan Zamiti, that's obviously that you got to salt the water. They know. I'm telling you, it's just.
Yeah, I know.
It's embedded in us as Italians.
I know, it raises the temperature, but
right.
I try to cut down on sodium because not just for me, but also for my husband. I don't want he eats enough with pizza and stuff and a lot of sodium as it is. And I'm like, I don't want to, trying to watch certain things. I'd rather cook with garlic powder than salt if I can. So anyway, Scott Young wants to know, is Wandale Robinson going to be ready for training camp? I have a feeling, and okay, we got several months yet, but I would not be surprised if he starts summer camp on PUP, given when the injury happened.
Yeah, happened like in the middle of the year, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to start on PUP, would be my guess right now. Now, I don't know where he stands right now. I'm trying to remember in the locker room, was he on a crutch? I'm trying to remember now. There's so much going on that day.
I think he was. I remember
he was
that.
too.
Yeah, I think.
So yeah, he's probably not going to be able to run for at least another month or two. So I'm thinking he's going to be ready. He's going to start on PUP, maybe be ready a little later on in the summer, if at all. So real shame with that kid because
he's definitely going to miss the off-season program.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see what else.
See the Knicks won. That was a good win tonight against the Celtics.
Yeah, against the Celtics. They're one of the best teams in the league.
Somebody asked me about the Eagle fans.
They asked how they treated you. I saw that up there.
Eagle fans are. What can I say? They're going to be
right.
Eagle
like
fans.
the Jets will Jet. Eagle fans will Eagle. Fans.
Did you give them the Eli Manning 2-finger salute?
What do you think? I'm crazy?
I mean, you should give them the bird. I mean, they are birds.
You think I'm crazy?
That is the funniest meme of all time. The Eli Manning 2-finger salute.
I have that on my
Eli
phone.
could get away with that on national television.
Did you see the billboard that they had for him?
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
That was awesome. I posted that on I did a story on Giants Country about that because I just thought that was so funny. Eli's like, oh, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. I love Eli. He's just nothing bothers him. He's just,
if anybody else
was perfect for New York.
They would have got destroyed, especially in like today's cancel culture. Somehow Eli Manning got away from got away. He was able.
Well, I don't think he realized.
Eli, he was showing him how many Super Bowl MVPs he won. That's all that was.
The only thing would have been sweeter is if he had had both rings on his.
Correct.
Oh, that would have been great.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, Eli has twice as many Super Bowl MVPs as the Eagles have championships, and that's perfect.
That's why I hope the Niners destroy him this
Come on,
weekend.
49ers, my sister's favorite team, so I'm rooting for her team.
Can you imagine how insufferable?
No.
Oh my goodness. After the show, after we did the live show last week, I had Eagle fans, after the game, I should say, I had Eagle fans coming back to the channel, posting all kinds of crap.
Oh, they did that to me too. And they have to do that. That's their courage factor. They don't have the courage to say before the game, but after it's over, now I'm going to go back and how about that? Like I laughed when they took Jalen Hurts, as most Eagle fans hated that pick. And, someone came back. And again, that's what, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, right? So we go through laughing now. I'm like, wow, you visited a video. You went through all my videos. It went back 3 years to put that on there. I'm like, I wish I had that much time in my hands.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But of course, because I did a video like, why not us? Why can't we win? Like, oh, this aged poorly. What were you saying?
One of them actually sent me an email, an Eagle fan, and said, we're going to make you an honorary Eagle fan because you picked the Eagles and you're the only one with brains out of the whole Giants lot to pick the Eagles. And I'm like, I just laughed.
I get that all the time. I get Eagle fans all the time. Like, Bad Dog, we welcome you over here. I'm like, I appreciate that, but over my dead body. It ain't happening.
I don't mind if other teams' fans come on the channel. The only thing
I don't either. But
the only thing I ask is that you be respectful and this is a PG channel, so no bad language or
That's why I can't tell you what I really feel about the Eagles, because
I already know how you feel about the Eagles. Trust me.
Don't like
I know you would. I was actually hoping that the Giants would win because I would have.
That would have been the end of all the Eagle fans. They would have never came to my channel again. That would have been the end of it. And Patty, I'm telling you, one day that's going to happen where we do beat them. And they're not going to want to be around me because of all the years of suffering. I will get it all back in that one victory.
I know you will. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I mean, in all honesty, I don't think it's going to be that much longer before the Giants start closing that gap and being a little bit more competitive. I mean, this year it is.
I think we could catch or at least come very close to catching the Cowboys next year. Yeah. I don't think we could catch the Eagles next year. I think we're at least 2 years away from catching the Eagles.
We're going to close the gap. I think they're going to close the gap.
I think we'll get closer next year. Yeah. We'll get closer.
Yeah.
The other thing I can say, it's all in good fun. I mean, sports is about trash talking.
We all like football and
it's all in good fun. I mean, the NFC East is
Eagle fans are passionate, Cowboy fans are passionate.
Great rivalries in this division, and this division is really good again. And it's always fun talking.
I mean, down in Dallas, I can remember not this past Thanksgiving, but years ago when they played it on Thanksgiving, I wasn't in the media. And I went to the game with my brother, and I remember the Dallas fans. You talk about the Eagle fans and how they could be a little rambunctious. I remember getting beers thrown at me and dumped on me at the Cowboys Stadium. So it happens wherever you go, and if you don't have the toughness, I guess, to sit out there, it's like don't be out in the stands.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium's like that.
So
you wear the wrong things at Yankee Stadium, forget about it. I've seen it all.
I've never been to Yankee Stadium, believe it or not.
Yeah, you wear your Boston stuff there.
I've gone to Yankee Stadium with a Met hat. I've gone there with a Met hat.
They're not. Yankee fans aren't very endearing to the opposite. They're just
Yeah, I don't ever remember being at maybe when I was younger, we might have taken a field trip or something. Certainly not the current version of Yankee Stadium. I remember going to Shea Stadium a lot because my dad was a Mets fan, but yet I've never been to Citi Field, and I've always wanted to go to Citi Field.
Yeah, I haven't been to Citi Field yet.
I'll probably end up going to Citi Field. You know what?
How far are you
my
from
first time
Citi
to
Field?
Citi Field is going to be? Is if Kiss plays their final concert there. That will be my first time at Citi Field. I guarantee you that will be.
I went to the Billy Joel concert, the last play at Shea.
Really?
Yeah, which was the best concert I've ever been to.
Wow.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind going to see Billy Joel at the Garden.
I saw him at the Garden as well.
Yeah. What I really want to do is I really want to go see a Rangers game at the Garden. That I would love.
I would love to do that too.
I've been to several Knicks games, never been to a Rangers game.
Really?
I've never been to a Knicks game either. I've never been to the Garden. It's something I've got to do before.
Wow.
I've never in the 90s. In the 90s, I remember trying to get Knicks tickets, and it was a lot harder to do that in the 90s than it is now. Number one, because there wasn't all the technology available. Number two, the Knicks were one of the best teams in the league that entire decade, so it was much harder to get tickets. I could have got any tickets I wanted to during the Isaiah Thomas era, and when Eddie Curry and Nate Robertson and all those guys are running around the court, Jared Jeffries and whatever the hell else they had out there, 90-year-old Steve Francis and Penny Hardaway, and I could have went to any of those games. Who the hell wanted to go to those?
My father used to get. I don't know how I guess he got it from Chase Bay because I guess they were a sponsor back in the day.
No, they still are.
He got courtside seats.
Chase
when my father worked at a law firm, and that Chase was one of the clients, or they did business with Chase or something. So we got courtside seats, and I remember I wasn't into basketball, never had been, and my brother was really into basketball, and he courtside seats.
I'm going to give you a tip if you go. Anybody that's listening. And I didn't know this. The last Knicks game I went to was a year ago. Actually, a subscriber to my YouTube channel gave me a ticket, so I went. I was right after the pandemic was starting to loosen up a little bit. I went to the Knicks game last year, and like you said, Chase is a sponsor, so they have like the Chase Bridge, like Chase is all over the stadium. If you have a Chase card, all you need is a Chase credit card. You don't need to be a season ticket holder. If you have a Chase credit card, as you go into the Garden, they have the Chase Lounge, and they have free food before the game.
Yeah.
So you don't have to.
Well, they had them at the concerts too.
Yeah. So that's one thing I didn't know. I don't have a Chase credit card, but if you
had that when I went to see Kiss at MSG, I think Citibank was a sponsor, and I have a Citibank account, or I had one. I don't have it anymore, and I was able to go into the lounge. So yeah, I know that about some. I think the Giants have something too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember what lounge it is, but yeah, never been to Yankee Stadium that I remember at any rate. Maybe I did as a kid, but
never been there in a while. I used to go to the Yankee Stadium a lot when I was younger. When I was a single guy, I used to go all the time.
Been to just about the NFL stadium.
What's that?
I think the only NFL stadiums I haven't been to are Buffalo, Kansas City. I haven't been obviously to the new LA stadium yet, and to the Las Vegas one, but I think I've been to every other stadium.
You can knock two off this year. They go to Buffalo and Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
And I want to make that trip. Trust me. I hope they do Vegas and Arizona back to back. That would be great.
They got some great.
They got great trips this year. Holy smokes.
Miami, Buffalo.
You know what? I'm not a fan of Miami. I had a bad experience down in Miami.
Going to New Orleans?
New Orleans, yes.
I love New Orleans.
Oh,
yeah, love New Orleans.
You spend all day. We actually get a hotel right on Bourbon Street. It's awesome. You don't sleep much, but it's awesome.
No, you don't sleep. If you're on Bourbon Street, you don't sleep.
No, you do not. But I'll tell you what, the great food there. I mean, it's like
Cajun food, man. Beignets. That's it. That's good stuff.
Oh man.
Not to mention every corner, you can do whatever you want to drink.
Thinking of it.
The hurricanes, the grenades, it's all it's all good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. All right. A couple more questions and then we'll call it a show. Let's see. Fabian asks, what do you consider an elite quarterback? Characteristic wise, or by a person, I guess somebody who can throw long, throw short, make all the throws, cut down on the mistakes, fool the defense, raise the talent around him,
win games,
obviously. Daniel Jones isn't quite there yet, but he's on his way if he continues to develop the way he's
Daniel Jones will be a second tier guy. He's not going to be Pat Mahomes is that's an elite quarterback.
Yes.
Justin Herbert's an elite quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is going to be an elite quarterback.
Yes.
These guys, they make all the throws. They have all the athleticism. They have a rocket arm. There's just some guys that inherently are super special. But again, a lot of Giants fans are like, we got to get this guy. Like, you're just going to find them. They don't come around that it's hard to find those guys. You don't get an elite quarterback in every draft class. Is there an elite quarterback in Daniel Jones' draft class? Kyler Murray has elite skills,
and they take time to develop. They take time to I mean,
right.
Allen took what, a couple of years to develop. Mahomes took a year. It takes time.
Trevor Lawrence took a year.
Very rarely does a rookie come in and set the world on fire. So you got to be patient, So, all right. Gabe wants to know, what do you think about trading for Higgins? His contract has only one more year. If you're trading draft picks and high draft picks,
I would trade for Higgins. I just don't think the Bengals will trade him, but I would.
I don't think they would either. I
think they're going to try to take advantage of Burrow's salary as long as they can.
Right. If you're a Super Bowl contender, it'd be difficult to say, all right, let's get rid of this guy on a rookie contract, a second round pick on a rookie contract.
Yeah, definitely. Cameron Karimi, any chance we get D Hopkins? Okay, we talked about that earlier. Probably not. I don't even know if the Cardinals have made him available for trade. Didn't they say that they're not considering trading him at this time? So if he wants a new contract, and Chris talked about this earlier, if he wants a new contract, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's tough to extend that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
35, 36 years old.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
Amazing guy wants to know, how many primetime games will the Giants get?
The Eagles will be one.
Oh, you know it. Dallas will probably be another.
Buffalo could be.
Buffalo,
that's a great storyline with Dable and Shane.
Yep, at least 3, I would say.
That's my guess.
Because you've got, I think, if I remember correctly, I think the max on primetime games is 5. I think that's the max. So you have to leave. Is it 5? So you've got to leave a couple open for flexing purposes. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants get 3. Dallas, Philly, and Buffalo would make that.
I think they're going to have one scheduled Sunday night football game for the first time in forever, because the last they were flexed this time, and they were
hear me, and I'm going to go, hate night games.
I think the Buffalo game, if I had to guess, is going to be their Sunday night game. I think
that's at Buffalo. Is that game
it's in Buffalo?
It is at Buffalo. Yeah. Then you're going to hear me, because I hate night games. I hate them.
I'm trying to think what other games on their schedule could be.
Well, Philly for sure. You would think.
Yeah, divisional games for sure. They play the 49ers. That's a good team, right? That's possible.
I don't know. Maybe that'll be a national, like a
4
game of the week type thing. But I
yeah,
don't think that's a night game. But
I think it'll be. I think we hit it. I think it'll be the Bills, Eagles, and Cowboys.
Yeah, those would be the 3, I would think. So, Paul Soltero, what are your thoughts about Leo saying he would restructure to stay with the team? Good on him. I mean, I think he's going to have to be honest with you. $32 million cap hit. No way they carry that. I just don't see it. And it frees up more cap space.
Work something out. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Amazing guy asked, should the Giants sign Mike Gesicki? That would be the tight end.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
If he's cheap.
I don't have an opinion on that. That's the first time I've seen that question. I'd have to.
What'd you do with Lawrence Cager? I felt like he came on at the end of the year.
He was fine.
Yeah.
He was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about Mike Gesicki. I'm thinking about linebackers. I'm thinking about corners.
Yeah.
Linemen.
Yeah. I think linebackers got to be the top priority in free agency. I think. I mean, I don't know if Shane's going to agree with that necessarily, but. Yeah, I'm not so sure with Gesicki, to be honest with you. I think that might be more of a luxury type of signing. Okay. Let me see. Here's an interesting question here. Allison Lombard, if you can keep them on vet minimum deals, I'd keep Slayton and Galladay. Galladay ain't taking a vet minimum deal. He's gone. I mean, pretty obvious.
He's not going to come back.
Pretty obvious.
Doesn't fit the scheme, and we're going to save a lot of money by getting rid of him.
And I don't think Slayton's going to take a veteran minimum deal.
No, the wide receiver market is way too thin. Somebody's going to give him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets like $10 million a year.
Yeah,
he's going to get paid
at least 7. I can see 3 years, 20 million, 2 years, 14 million, something like that.
Yeah. All right, Alfred Okiere, do you believe the Giants will move up for a receiver in the draft? I don't think they're going to trade up. I'd be surprised if they trade up.
I think they have a better chance of trading back than
I think they would trade back too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they'll trade up.
Yeah, I don't.
I won't rule it out. They could, but I don't.
I don't like the odds of that happening. I mean, we'll see how it kind of works out, but I don't know that that's going to happen. So, all right, Jordan Smitty, would Saquon ever come on the pod? You know, Jordan, I've actually had Saquon on the pod before we went to video. He did an audio version with me a couple years ago. So what happens now? And spoiler alert for you guys. Now that we're approaching the Super Bowl, there's marketing promotions going on up the wazoo. And a lot of times I get emails saying, hey, so-and-so is promoting this, you know, would you be interested in talking to him? And if it's a current Giant or a former Giant, I always say yes. I mentioned Eli, you know, I'm hoping Eli will be on the pod next week. There's another former Giant that I'm hoping, you know, and I put in a request and we'll see if it comes through. I'm hoping to get Strahan on the pod, which would be kind of cool.
That'd be awesome.
Now, I did get a marketing promotion for Saquon, but the agent, the PR rep didn't say anything about him being available to talk. So I wrote back and I said, hey, I'll promote this, but, you know, I can't promote it just like this. I got to have some football talk. So that's kind of the way I approach it. And sometimes they say yes and sometimes they say no. So, but if I ever get Saquon on the yeah, I mean, I would definitely throw him on the pod. Absolutely. Usually they only give me the players for about 10 minutes or so. So, but yeah, Saquon was on the pod. You'd have to go back to the audio version. It was a couple of years ago because I remember I won pod of the week actually for that interview because everybody's like, "Oh my God, you got Saquon Barkley." This was before his knee injury. That's how long ago it was. So, but yeah, keep an eye out because there's hopefully, like I said, hopefully there's people that we can bring on, former and current players that will come on the pod, even if it's just for 10 minutes or so. It's better than nothing. So. That's why this is the most wonderful time of the year. It's all the marketing stuff that litters my inbox, but you just got to go through it and find stuff. So, Jonathan Peck, first pick. What position y'all taking with the first pick? Best available.
Best available. Yeah.
Can't really, you know. You
I mean, ideal world, wide receiver, but best available.
Yeah, exactly. He's best available. You can't go in and say, with my first pick, I'm going to come hell or high water. I'm going to pick a receiver.
That's how you end. That's how you end up with, you know, some of these horrible wide receiver picks. You force a pick. You can't force a pick.
Yeah. Fabian asked, were you ever invited to a function or event from any Giant? There have been events. Yes. Now, just to be clear on certain things, with the media, you don't want to start taking favors and, you know, hanging out with people. You got to maintain a professional relationship. What I can tell you is years ago, the Giants used to have picnics before the start of training camp, or sometimes it would be after the mini camp in June. They would have a picnic. They don't do it anymore, but this was I'm talking the Fossil years. And we did have an event at Fossil's house where it was catered. You had, you know, valet parking. It was a first class event. I mean, it was quite the event. And, you know, I remember when we got the invite, I don't remember the year. I had to be just, because I was living in the apartment with my husband. So I had to be newly married because I remember getting a call from the PR, one of the PR interns saying, "What's your husband's name?" So I told him. And then I remember my husband always goes out and gets the mail. And he comes in and he's got this envelope with the return address from the Giants and says, "To Patricia Traina and Lee." And I'm like, and he goes, "You got something from the Giants?" I said, "Oh, okay." So I kind of just took it and I put it aside. And he goes, open it, you know, because my husband's like a little kid. So I opened it and it was an invite to this picnic that they were having. So they don't really have events for the media. Sometimes they'll do like things and they'll invite you to cover it. So it's kind of, you know, if it's a charity thing, like I know last year they had some kind of a draft event where they had people in tents. I don't remember. I wasn't invited to this one, but you get notices that you can go and you can cover these events. So, But social events, they stopped that a long time ago. Because it's just, really shouldn't be mixing pleasure and business together.
Right.
So, so that was kind of interesting. All right, let's see if we have any more, because I know we're going a little more. I know you guys are good, but you guys are probably getting tired. I can see Dog is losing some energy.
Yeah, I'm at the end of the week. I always start to run on. It's always Thursday night. I start to get tired just from the week of working and then working out and then low calories and then streaming every night. So yeah, I start to fall off Thursday night, and Friday. Tomorrow's always rough.
Right.
I'm just all day. I'm on fumes on Fridays. Fridays are tough. And Saturday we get to eat and we get to sleep, and I'm good on Saturday all the time.
We'll just do a couple more and then I'll let you guys go, because actually I've got to go and I got to get tomorrow's.
And I have to shave, Patty, or Papa Guzzo is going to get all over.
Yeah, I know, man. You gotta stay on top of that. There's no excuse for you not to shave, man.
No, there's not.
Gabe asked, do you go to Tom Coughlin's charity event every year? No, I don't actually. Anything. I'm kind of picky about what I go to, and I'm not a big fan of working red carpets and stuff like that. If I can't be for the whole event, you don't have to feed me. I just want to be into here and see the whole event. I just don't want to do red carpet and stuff, especially if I've got to haul it into the city. It just not my cup of tea. And I think that's it. I think that's the last of the questions. So we don't have any predictions to do, guys, but
unfortunately,
I know. I mean, unless you want to predict, who's going to win the championship.
I'm going to go Niners. I'm going to go Niners and Bengals, and I'm going to have the Niners winning the whole enchilada.
Oh, you think the Bengals will top the Chiefs?
Yep.
I hope so.
I'm picking the Bengals.
I will say, part of me is like, the Chiefs are really getting disrespected. Home dog, and I understand that Mahomes is a little bit dinged up, but part of me, and I know that Cincinnati's beat them the last 3 times. Part of me really wants to go with the Chiefs because I feel like they're getting a little disrespected going into this game. But
the Bengals defense is playing really good.
Bengals are hot.
Joe Burrow is the man.
I'm going with Cincinnati and the Niners, and I'm going with the Niners to win it.
I want to see the Niners because I don't want the Eagles in the Super Bowl. They don't. No,
Niners will find a way.
They got to find a way. And
listen, the Eagles, we did a podcast or like a show like this with a couple of Eagle content creators, and they're right. They're like, we're not Minnesota. We're not Minnesota. You're not going to do to us what you did in Minnesota. Well, Eagle fans, San Francisco ain't us. You ain't running the ball for 250 yards against that front. That's not happening. That's not happening. And, they have some receivers. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. They also got this guy named Christian McCaffrey. They also have this tight end. His name's George Kittle. Yeah, it's a pretty damn good team. And it may be Brock Purdy, but they ain't scared.
And not for nothing, but my brother's a Chiefs fan, and he has just been so insufferable all year long.
He's gonna be sad.
For no other reason. I want to see him humble.
Let me ask you this: if Burrow wins the whole thing this year, he beats Mahomes, then he wins the Super Bowl. Does he start to enter like the discussion? Because right now it's like Mahomes is the best quarterback. If Burrow beats him again and wins a Super Bowl, is he the number 1 quarterback in the league, or does he at least enter that discussion?
Yeah, he enters the discussion because he's already an elite guy. He's already in the top 5.
Yeah.
I think he might. I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to, if he is able to accomplish that, I think a lot of people will label him the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah,
I can see that. I could see that. And all I know is my brother's just been insufferable with the Chiefs. It's always the Chiefs this, the Chiefs that. And you should have seen the smack he was talking with the Giants.
Yeah, they're going to lose.
Thank goodness I'm the older one of the two of us.
And this is also in the neutral site, right? They play in Atlanta, so it's not like the Chiefs have home field advantage, correct?
I think so.
Right? Isn't this the game that ended up being because of the thing with Buffalo?
No. I thought that was
Kansas City.
It is. Okay.
I think it would be Kansas City because if Buffalo was in it, then I think that's.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
I think Buffalo and Cincinnati had a coin flip, I think, and whoever won the coin flip got home field. I I think if it was Buffalo,
there was something that they were going to play in Atlanta. So maybe if it was the Bills, maybe the Bills won. It would have been the Bills and Chiefs in Atlanta. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah,
I think that's what it would have been.
It would have been a neutral field if it was Bills Chiefs.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I guess we'll call it a show. We went a little over, and I know everybody's probably getting tired. So thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Giants Live. Hope you had a good time. As always, guys, we had a blast. It's been a blast all year talking football with you.
It has been.
We've still got to, talk about the salary cap show. So we'll figure out when we're going to do that. Hopefully you guys want to come on and we'll do this live. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week to the Locked On Giants podcast. Like I said, I hope to have Eli Manning on. I'm not sure if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm still waiting to hear back. And we'll just keep rolling out the shows. Tomorrow, we're actually going to have Ed Valentine's going to be on the show. He joined me earlier in the week. So it's a little bonus show for you guys and gals. So hope you'll tune in. So for Taina and the dog, I'm Traina, signing off.
Peace.